welcome to Citi Field. Gary Cohen, Ron Darling with you tonight as the Mets play the middle game of their series against the Braves. The Mets may have solidified their first base situation yesterday by trading away Ike Davis to the Pirates. The Braves have had a good sense of their first base situation for several years, and Freddie Freeman has become an enormous thorn on the side of the New York Mets.
You know, this guy is just going to be a perennial MVP candidate for the next few seasons. I don't even blame the Mets pitching. This guy goes coast to coast. One of the unbelievable spring training, and this is not to take anything away from Hayward. One of the scouts told me, well, you wait till you see Freddie Freeman. This guy is the best hitter in their organization. He's a guy that can make contact, hit for power, and also is a clutch player. And you can see maybe the new nemesis against the Mets leaving after the retirement of Chipper Jones.
And certainly Freddie hopes to have the same kind of career that Chipper Jones did, and Chipper certainly knew how to hurt the Mets. Well, trying to stop Freddie Freeman and the Braves tonight is Bartolo Colon, and he certainly did not have his best day in his last start in Anaheim.
Well, the bad news is that it was historically one of the worst starts Bartolo's ever had in his career. Back-to-back home runs in the first inning. But let me tell you, good pitchers, guys who win 18 games like Bartolo did last season, very rarely do they go back-to-back with bad games.
And had some back spasms going into that start. Not expected to be an issue tonight. The guy warming up behind him is Irvin Santana, who pitched a gem against the Mets in Atlanta.
Well, this is a guy that all winter no one wanted. Finally, the Braves, with their two injuries to Medlin and Beachy, needed another arm. They got Harangu, who threw 7 no-hit innings last night, and $14 million for Santana, who had one of the best starts he's had in his career against the Mets last.
Mets managed just one hit last night, trying to do better tonight as they continue their homestand against the Braves. Mets and Braves, all the action coming your way tonight right here on Pix 11. Baseball is brought to you by your Tri-State Kia retailers. By Time Warner Cable, more shows on more screens. Time Warner Cable, enjoy better. By Tri-State Ford, to see why the competition just can't compete, visit tristateford.com. By Acela, take off, book now at amtrak.com. By Verizon Fios, making life more entertaining with America's fastest, most reliable internet. That's powerful. And by Nissan. Choose Nissan today for great offers on their most exciting lineup ever. Shop ChooseNissan.com. Keys to the game brought to you by your Tri-State Kia retailers.
Listen, when you've been around long enough, you don't even... Colon forgot about that start a minute after he was out of that ball game. And Irvin Santana, over 100 wins in the major leagues. He knows how to pitch with runners in scoring position. And Freddie Freeman, I don't have a clue. on how you pitch to him.
But don't let him beat you. It's your tour of Citi Field, brought to you by your Tri-Honda dealer. Temperature 66 degrees as we approach game time. Should cool down into the 50s tonight. Mets playing their first Saturday night home game of the year. The retired numbers out in left field. The Acela Club in the left field corner. Lots going on in the ballpark tonight as the Mets and Braves continue their series. Mets are 2-5 at home, trying to improve on that. David Wright and the Mets getting ready to play the Braves. First pitch coming up from Citi Field. At bat on your favorite mobile phone or tablet. Get live look-ins, instant replays, scores, stats, audio, free MLB.tv game of the day, and more. Download on the App Store or visit Mets.com today. That's upcoming schedule brought to you by Time Warner Cable. Enjoy better. We're on Pix 11 again tomorrow for the final game of the series, and again on Monday night when the Mets open their 4-game series with the defending National League champion Cardinals. 4-game series with the Cardinals, and then 3 with the Marlins to wrap up this homestand before the Mets begin their next road trip in Philadelphia a week from Tuesday. Doc Gooden is going to throw out the first pitch tonight, and that is always a special moment at the ballpark. Anytime the doctor is in the house. Command issues.
It's the first ball I've ever seen Doc throw. Very nice. Doctor looks good, doesn't he?
There's always a little electricity in the air when Dwight Gooden's at Flushing.
It was interesting. He went out to the mound, and Bartolo Colon kind of went up to him to give him a hug. There it is.
Wearing his 1986 World Championship ring. Braves starting lineup brought to you by Toyota. Let's go places. Jason Hayward, who sat out last night against the left-hander, back in the lineup in his accustomed leadoff spot. Otherwise, the same unit for Freddie Gonzalez. Braves are riding high. They're 11-5. They won 6 of their last 7 after their 6-0 victory last night. And Bartolo Colon, who shut out the Braves for 7 innings in Atlanta, will try and turn the page.
3 times when he was with the Oakland Athletics last season, he had an outing where he gave up 5 earned runs or more. The next outing was always a pretty stellar outing. The most runs he gave up after that was 3 earned runs or less.
Beautiful sunset developing as we look out toward Manhattan and across toward New Jersey. Well, an extra long meeting at home plate with the umpires and Terry Collins. And this goes back to last night in that odd play where Lucas Duda was at first with 2 out. Travis d'Arnaud tried to beat out an infield hit. Terry came out with the eye toward possibly challenging the call. After d'Arnaud was called out at first, Freddie Freeman had the wherewithal to throw the ball to third base where they tagged out Duda, who had slowed down on seeing the 3rd out call. And Terry is trying to get clarification from the umpires. He got some today. Here's the play. Close play at first.
Just didn't know. Watch the right foot. Not sure that he got there. I thought he did, but not sure. I don't know if it would have been conclusive. Duda, once you hear that there's the out call, of course you're going to slow up. So the ball there tags him for the 4th out of the inning. So the Braves played that way through almost to 4 outs.
Jason Hayward leads off, and Cologne's first pitch is up and away. And there are several factors that were not aware of last night. One is, Terry told us today, he did not see Duda tagged out at third because he was so intent on coming out of the dugout because you have to be out within 10 seconds. The second thing is that the umpires on the field told Terry that even if they overturned the call at first, that the inning was going to be over. And that was erroneous. That's where the big mistake was made.
That's right.
Because the rules say, the replay rules, that the replay umpires can take into account the fact that the runner is deceived by the fact that the 3rd out call was made when deciding how to place the runners. That's outside, and Cologne's behind the opening hitter 3-1.
Really, the worst thing that could have happened there, if d'Arnaud had been ruled safe at first base, is you just maybe return Duda to second.
Grounded down to first, and there's Duda to handle it. And Hayward retired for the 1st out of the night.
Look at the defense brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. A couple of youngs and an old. Granderson in right field. In the infield, you've got David Wright, Tejada, Murphy, Duda. That's going to be every day, folks. And Travis d'Arnaud behind the plate.
Something wrong with your outfield being young and grand. Here's B.J. Upton, whose bat has perked up over the last week, hitting .320 over his last 6 games after a dreadful start. And he takes a strike. B.J. had 2 hits last night. And Cologne gets it over, and he's ahead 0-2, and he's already ahead of the game from where he was in the 1st inning. His last start on Sunday when he got the 1st out and then gave a back-to-back home runs to Mike Trout, Albert Pujols, and Raul Ibanez.
Pretty interesting, though. Travis d'Arnaud with a bad throw back to Cologne. He had to reach down and get it and winced a little bit. So the thing you have to watch as a pitcher, if you have a little bit of a bulky back, means it's tight, get a little bit of spasms in there. For Cologne, the key is always, is he around the knees? Down in the strike zone is his friend. If he's up, it might be because of that back.
And he was certainly up in that start in Anaheim, and he's up there 1-2 to Upton. Cologne pronounced himself fit and ready to go several days ago, but the Mets had a backup plan tonight. Daisuke Matsuzaka was on call in case Cologne couldn't answer the bell, as he will be again on Monday when Henry Mejia is set to start, coming back from that torn blister on his finger. There's Daisuke, who officially is working out of the bullpen these days, but let's face it, he's not a bullpen guy.
He's like the doctor on call, right? Mm-hmm. In residency.
2-2 to B.J. Upton. And the rare slider misses outside. He threw more non-fastballs in his last start. First 2 starts, he had 90% fastballs. His last start, 68%.
Well, his goal is to throw all fastballs. But if you get it off him, get him off the fastball.
Into center field. Chris Young right there, and that's the 2nd out.
And the Angels did with their back-to-back home runs. These pitches were almost all in the same place. Trout, all world, takes it off the world. Next, Ibanez, same place, middle of the plate, away. Ibanez hit a big 3-run home run the night before. And then Albert Pujols, who didn't look very good during that entire series. That was probably his best swing.
And since then, Pujols homered yesterday and homered again today. He's now up to 498. So Cologne had a day to forget was asked to suck up a few innings because the Mets had played 13 innings the night before, so he needed to go those 5 innings. Otherwise, he might have been gone a lot earlier from that game. So here's Freeman, who was 2 for 5 last night, a double and a 2-run homer that opened up a 1-0 game in the 8th. And he takes on the inside corner from Cologne, 1-1. Freeman 3rd in the National League, hitting at .390, 1st in the league in slugging, 2nd in the league in on-base percentage, off to a roaring start.
Right on the plate, choked up just ever so much. There's Justin Upton.
And he floats one over shortstop into left center for a base hit. Eric Young comes over to cut it off, holding Freeman to a 2-out single. He just seems to have that ability to hit the ball anywhere in the ballpark.
Well, what he does is that he does not kind of have a one-grooved swing. His swing is hand-eye coordination. If you're going to pitch me one way, that's where I'm going to go. I'm not going to try to pull the ball away, which is what most left-handers do.
So here's Justin Upton with 2 out and a runner at first. Upton was on base 3 times last night with a single and 2 walks. Also drove in a run with a sac fly. And takes the first pitch cutter for a strike.
Cologne right now, his velocity just a little down a click or two.
He's averaged 89.6 on his fastball this year. He's been 86 to 88 so far tonight. When you talk about a pitcher that might be suffering from some kind of back spasms or back issue, what's the first thing that you look at?
The ball up in the strike zone is number 1. He's doing something also. Watch this pitch here to Upton that I'll tell you about in a second. He's also, if you notice him, he's kind of sitting down lower, almost like he's throwing uphill. He usually stands up a little taller and has a better angle. Why is that? If you get a little lower, your back doesn't hurt as much as opposed to when you sit up real straight. What happens when your back's sore? You kind of slump a little bit, right? When you sit, same way when you pitch.
Strike 3 called, and he gets Upton looking at the letter high fastball. Justin goes away unhappy. Cologne leaves satisfied with his first inning. Places, and after being 1 hit last night, Terry Collins comes back with the exact same lineup that he had out there last night, trying for better things against a different pitcher. Tonight, the Mets face Irvin Santana.
Well, Santana, one of the reasons he's got that low ERA was that 8 shutout innings against the Mets in his first start. Followed up with an outstanding effort his last time out, and this young man can pitch, guys. Look at the defense, brought to you by Geico again. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more car insurance. 2 Upton brothers and Jason Hayward, very formidable out there. Johnson, second in the batting title last year. Simmons, all-world with that glove. Dan Uggla and Freddie Freeman, two friends on the right side, and Evan Gattis behind the plate.
Eric Young will lead things off for the Mets in the home first. Eric last night 0 for 2, a walk and a sacrifice. And his string snapped of reaching base in the first inning in 7 straight games. Irvin Santana signed in the middle of March after the Braves started racking up Tommy John surgeries like it was popcorn.
It's like a pitcher every year, right? Kyle Loesch was the guy last year who had to wait to sign at the very last minute. Santana this year.
Well, the late signings by the Braves to replace the injured Medlin and the injured Brandon Beachy have turned out as wonderfully as they could be the first 3 weeks of the season. We saw Aaron Harang last night. He was the bargain basement signing. Santana a little bit more expensive, but they both have been wonderful through this first few weeks of the year. Young fouls it away, 1-2.
Santana just does not have it tonight, Gary. Watching him last start against the Mets, 20 in a row. He's already thrown a ball in 3 pitches.
20 straight strikes to start the night against the Mets. Wound up with 8 scoreless innings, no walks, 6 strikeouts. In a 4-3 win, the Mets rallied late against the Atlanta bullpen to make that close. Santana tonight matched up against his former Angels teammate Bartolo Colon. Of course, Santana spent the bulk of his career with the Angels. Colon was there for 4 years and won a Cy Young with the Angels. 2 Dominican right-handers being reunited on opposite sides tonight. A little bit high and away, 94 from Santana, 2-2.
Colon leads the world in smiles, doesn't he, during his start? There's the Murph.
He is as unruffled as any pitcher you'll ever see. Maybe any person you'll ever see.
Playing with house money, that's what it's like.
Age 40, almost 41. Having rejuvenated his career the last couple of years.
You know, I've watched Santana pitch for a long time. I don't remember him throwing consistently 93, 94.
Went to the changeup and it's fouled off.
I always thought of him as a 90 to 92 guy. Mostly sliders. Fell in love with his slider. That's the kind of pitcher he was. And had not developed a changeup. We've seen all 3 have been outstanding, and he hasn't overused his slider.
7th pitch of the bat to Young leading off, and Eric takes one at his feet, a slider, and a full count. So Young making Santana work early. Murphy and Wright to follow in the opening inning as the Mets try to find a way to generate some offense at Citi Field. It has been elusive for them, not just this year, but over the last several years, and such a stark contrast this week. And that's too high, and Young is aboard to start the first inning. So Santana, who did not walk a batter against the Mets in his first start against the Mets, walks his first batter tonight.
And he was so on in that first start. Remember, it was his first start for the Braves. He was trying to show his mettle that night, and he was just about perfect. I haven't seen him better than that night against the Mets. He's enjoying some good company there, too. One outstanding pitcher and one of the best pitchers on the planet.
So we'll see whether Eric Young gets a quick read on Santana as Murphy steps in and takes a strike. Young with 9 steals, second in the National League. Has not been caught this year. Murphy 0 for 4 last night. There were a lot of 0-fers to go around. Well, you take the measure of a leadoff hitter, and his ability to get on in the first inning is so important.
Just such irritation for the pitcher.
He's running. The pitch outside. Gattis' throw is too late. And Young has his 10th stolen base of the year.
You know, there's a 2-part way for throwing for Gaddis. I think because he does not have as much experience, he's catching the ball first and then standing up and straight and trying to throw a bullet. That was a good throw, but in this league and at this level, you've got to do almost both at the same time. Catch and throw as quick as a second baseman turning a double play.
So Eric Young, who had 5 steals in the 3-game series in Atlanta that started the Mets road trip, has his first steal of this series. David Wright waiting on deck. Simmons trying to keep Young close as Murphy waits, and he flies one out to right center. Going back is B.J. Upton. Young tagging at second. Upton makes the catch, and Young moves over to third. So Murphy with the long fly ball moves Young to third with one away.
So I was talking about Gaddis before, and I think that his inexperience makes him want to stay in there and then throw the ball. What he does is he catches it first, and you see that big hop? Both of his feet are off the ground. No catchers that throw at runners have both feet off the ground. They come from a crouched position and just lurch out of there and are firing the ball to second base. He's got a kind of a hop to him before he throws. That takes time off.
And of course, teams keep notes on those things. Catchers release, how long it takes them to get the ball to second base. They do the same for pitchers, how long it takes them to get from the stretch to the plate, and that's how they base how often they run. Infield back, David Wright takes inside from Santana.
Well, there's no team in baseball that pitches David in more than the Atlanta Braves.
Wright had the Mets' only hit last night. Now it's a 9-game hitting streak, and he takes a slider off the plate, 2-0. Well, last year, Braves catchers with Brian McCann doing most of the catching threw out 27%. Down this year, although it's a much smaller sample. But you don't expect as much defense from Gaddis. What you expect is a lot of home runs. 2-0 to David, and he takes a strike. Well, David Wright became the first Met last night to break up a no-hitter in the 8th inning or later since 1997, when Luis Lopez got the Mets' first hit off Curt Schilling. There is one player in Mets history who has broken up 2 no-hit bids 8th inning or later.
Nasty slider. Best one he's thrown so far.
Infield's going to come in now with 2 strikes. 2-2 to Wright. Inside again, he pops him off the plate.
This is a familiarity breeds contempt kind of deal.
Well, they played the infield back until 2 strikes. Now bringing him in. Three and 2 to Wright. And David hits one through the drawn-in infield, and the Mets grab the early lead. David Wright with his 9th RBI of the year. He's now hit in 10 straight games, and the Mets have a 1-0 lead.
You know, one of my favorite things to watch is watch a hitter make an adjustment. Coming back in, Simmons is playing the pull, balls straight up through the middle. And I've seen Freddie Gonzalez do this now in Atlanta. I've seen him do it here. I totally disagree with it. Wright would have been a 6-3. You would have given up a run, and you would have had 2 outs in the inning. But every manager has their own picadillos.
Well, it opens the door for the potential of a bigger inning with Curtis Granderson at the plate. Granderson has 5 career home runs against Irvin Santana. Trying to get his season jump started. 0 for 4 last night, returned to the lineup after missing a couple of starts after crashing the fence in Arizona.
You know, Gary, you give me an 8th place hitter, 7th place hitter who's struggling. I might think about it, having the infield in, but certainly not against the Mets' best player.
Pulled down to first. Freeman able to handle it as he corralled it to his body and then makes an unnecessary throw. Wright is safe at second. Now there are 2 out. Not a clean pickup for Freddie Freeman, but able to stay with it.
Well, I think what happened is hit so sharply, and he didn't know exactly where it was. He got it like in the heel of the glove, so he figured discretion the better part of valor. Watch. Oh, it comes up off his glove, and he doesn't know if it's in his glove or trapped against his chest. It is trapped against his chest. Let me just take the out and figure out how to get a second out later. See, he's disappointed. He catches that in his glove. He goes to second first and back to first for a double play.
So if you play the infield back, perhaps the inning is over, but now the inning continues. Chris Young, the batter, looking for his first hit as a Met, and he takes a strike. Young 0 for 4 in his first at bats as a Met last night. He had played 1 inning in the field before going on the disabled list. Came back from the quad injury last night and ran into the one-hitter thrown by Harang and company. And it's top foul, and it's 0-2.
Well, the thing we saw from Chris Young, and it's hard to judge now, is 0-2 against an outstanding pitcher. But the one thing we saw in spring training that I hadn't seen for some years is Chris was going the other way. He was shortening up with 2 strikes. He wasn't such a punch-out victim when he was at the plate.
Sometimes, though, when you get in games that matter, those things can go out the window. We'll see how Chris is able to process that now that his season has begun. Of course, much was made of the fact, and he has talked about a lot of his work with Rod Carew in the offseason to try to get him to be a more complete hitter rather than just a home run threat. Last year he hit just 200 for Oakland, 12 homers and 335 at bats. Right at second and 2 down, a run in for the Mets here in this opening inning. Santana never worked this slowly in the game in Atlanta.
Looks like he and Gaddis are just having a difficult time. Wright's on second, so of course always a kind of litany or series of signs. Not agreeing yet.
And they're going to have a face-to-face conversation.
You know, for you folks at home, most pitchers use the first or second sign. So let's say they give 3 signs and going on first sign, 1, 2, 3, it means they're going to throw a fastball. The ones who use second sign, let's say 2, 1, 2, that's going to be a fastball also. I used to always use sign after 1, but if I shook off, then I went to the first sign. That would make it easier for the catcher, so you wouldn't be standing out there all day long.
For those of us who've never done that, it sounds very complicated.
It does? It's a sorry. I'm supposed to explain it. Sorry about that, folks.
I'm sure it sounds very easy to you as Ugler runs down the pop-up by Young to end the inning.
Second nature for you and Greek to the rest of us. First run of the game brought to you by Monster Energy Supercross. Young walks, steals, moves up on a fly ball, and David Wright cashes a run. It's 1-0 New York. Second inning, Mets with a 1-0 lead. Evan Gattis will lead off against Bartolo Colon. Gattis 0 for 4 last night, and he takes the cutter for a strike. Gattis, Ugla, and Chris Johnson for the Braves in the second. Meanwhile, at PNC Park tonight, Ike Davis is making his debut as a Pittsburgh Pirate. First base, batting 6th. First at bat, double down the left field line. Scores on a Neil Walker hit. All his roses for Ike in the Steel City.
You'll be eating one of those sandwiches with the coleslaw in it soon.
Primanti's. You're not a Pittsburgher unless you're eating a Primanti sandwich.
Iron City with it?
Icy Light.
Okay.
And if you're going to have the Primanti sandwich, it's got to be with the fried bologna.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. With the coleslaw and the French fries in the sandwich.
Nice.
Heaven. And Colon falls behind on Gattis 3-1.
That sounds like Kevin. Now you're a very healthy eater. Have you ever had one?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Every time we go to Pittsburgh, we only go there once a year. I have one.
You eat the whole thing?
Yes. Well, of course.
You're a little shady at times. There's sometimes you go off the radar.
I've got a dark side. Out to right center field, and Granderson gets back there onto the warning track to make the grab. 1 away. It's all about moderation, my friend. Everything in moderation. Here's Dan Ugla. Ugla 2 for 4 last night. He has hit a hot spell after a rough start. 7 for 19 over his last 5 games, including a couple of home runs. Read a couple of stats today about Bartolo Colon that say a lot about the nature of the way he pitches. Coming into the night, he had gone 2,708 plate appearances without giving up back-to-back walks. He had gone 47 consecutive starts without hitting a batter. That's how precise he is.
That's remarkable to me. I mean, I would, after 3 or 4 games, you'd have to hit someone just to stay in shape. I mean, just, you know. But there's a purpose with every pitch. It's almost like at times that he is more of a chef than a pitcher. He's got a little pinch here, a little dash there. I'm going to cut it here. Oh boy, he's looking out there, so let me sink it. I need a strikeout, so let me throw it at his hip. You know, I haven't thrown a breaking ball in a while. Let me mix one of those in. Like the hitter is no concern for him. It's just he and the catcher playing catch.
And that was a great graphic we just showed. Maybe we can show it again in a moment. As Ugla bounces it foul. Hitters have connected on more of their swings against him than against any other pitcher. Now, normally you'd say, well, that's a really bad thing.
That's right. But it's the opposite, because he's learned that pitching to contact is his friend. That's the reason he can throw 88 pitches in 8 innings or stats like that.
Now he's a little off his game tonight in that he's now run 3 3-ball counts to the first 6 batters.
That is the end result of what happened the last game. You just want to be a little more careful because you had your hat handed to you. That happens to every pitcher, folks. If you have a game where you give up a lot of home runs, what did you give up total? 5 home runs? 4 home runs in the last game, and I've been there. The next game, it's not that you're shy, it's not that you're passive. It's like, okay, let's keep the ball in the park here for the first couple innings, and then we'll start rolling.
I think there's another factor in that too. He faced the Phillies his last time out, the Angels his last time out. The Braves, and he showed this the first time he faced them, they're such an aggressive team. They're looking to hit home runs, and I think probably he would work a little differently against a team that was a little more passive. And Ugla goes down swinging, spotted perfectly for Colon's second strikeout.
Well, this is his pitch. It's a 2-seamer, starts off the outside corner, and just a late life down in the strike zone. When he's going good, you'll see that pitch. In a 100-pitch effort, you'll see that pitch 60 times.
So 2 out and nobody on. Now Chris Johnson, who had a big night last night, 3 for 4, a couple of doubles. He had the only RBI against John Neese, who got lost in the conversation last night. Neese was terrific for 6 innings. But with the Mets not hitting and Aaron Harang trying to work on some history, Neese's effort got lost in the wash. Well, after 2005, when he won the Cy Young, he went into hibernation for about 6 years. As Johnson lifts one to left center, the Youngs converge, and it's Chris to make the catch on the warning track, and that retires the side. 3 up and 3 down for the Braves in the second against Cologne. Chris Young making it look easy. 1-0 Mets in the second. Baseball is brought to you by Toyota. See where Toyota takes you. Test drive one at your Toyota dealer. Toyota, let's go places. Nice shot of the Unisphere over at the old World's Fair site. Lucas Duda leads off and rips one into right center for a base hit, and that'll go all the way back to the fence. Duda heads for second as B.J. Upton digs it out. And Duda has started the second inning for the Mets as the ball gets loose and he takes off for third. So the Braves mishandling it on the throw-in from B.J. Upton. It'll be a double, then an error on Upton, allowing Duda to go to third.
What are you mentioning out of Pittsburgh? Anything you can do, I can do better. Nice swinging here by Lucas, jumping on that first pitch, catching the gap. And you know what's interesting about that? Just, you know, in my opinion, a lazy throw from B.J. Upton. You stand up tall, you fire a strike to the infielder, and if you do that, the runner stays on second. Instead, a lollipop results in an extra base for Duda.
So the Mets got a runner to third with less than 2 out for the second straight inning. David Wright drove in the run in the first. Now Travis d'Arnaud. The infield will come about halfway in. And Travis takes a strike.
When you get this ball, you stand up, you identify who it is, and you throw a strike to them. And it's not that hard. You know why? Because you know your runner. It's Lucas Duda. He's not going to third. All you have to do is play pitch and catch from 120 feet. Irritates me to have to even talk about it.
Freddie, tell your boys not to irritate Ron.
No,
thanks.
I'm over it already. I'm over it.
1-1 to d'Arnaud. And Travis hits a ground ball to short. Simmons is going to come home with it, and Duda's in a rundown. Pitcher's going to have to make the tag, and does. And down to second goes d'Arnaud.
Now, personally, I would not have had a Lucas going on contact because of the no outs. I would have given a couple of chances to get him in. Even though the infield's back, he doesn't run quickly. And Simmons is platinum glove. He's going to do the right thing. Duda does a nice job, though, getting in the rundown to get d'Arnaud to second base.
I got a question for you, Ronnie, vis-a-vis new rules. Where Santana was standing right in the baseline. Seriously, did he have a responsibility to not be there before he had the ball?
You have to give a lane, I guess. I mean,
well, I'd like to look at that again.
There's no lane,
right? He didn't give a lane. Now, but because he was 15 feet from home plate, does that make a difference?
That's what they're going to say. He's 15 feet from home plate. It's a rundown. All bets are off.
I mean, Duda's thinking right now, what am I supposed to do?
Well,
right?
Yeah.
Because everybody's confused.
Rundowns are going to be all bets are off, Gary.
But if Santana had been, say, 3 feet from home plate instead of 15 feet, would that have made a difference?
He could have run him over.
Well, he can still run him over.
Yeah.
With the baseline, if he's in his way.
He could have run him over. It's kind of like hitting the goalie, in hockey. You don't do it. Try not to do it.
Ruben Tejada just 2 for his last 24, and he floats one into right field. Coming on hard is Hayward, and he trapped it. It appeared. Let's see, they say it's a catch. So he must have caught it. At least that's what the first base umpire, Mark Wagner, said. Let's see.
Just at the last second, he just backhands this ball. I don't know what it is about Citi Field, but Jason Hayward does not allow the ball to touch the green grass here. Another beautiful play.
So good play by Hayward. Clearly a clean catch, and that's the second out. And good base running by d'Arnaud to stay at second. So Colon will come up with 2 out and a runner in scoring position. Colon 0 for 4 on the season. So an inning that began with a runner at third and nobody out now looks like it may result in nothing for the Mets as Colon had his home run cut.
That was a Ruthian swing.
Ruthian body, Ruthian swing.
Well, this is how I'm feeling. The back is fine.
If it wasn't before, it is now. That was like a chiropractic move. Well, he lost the helmet completely this time. Went partially askew the first time and completely gone this time.
Another little cutter away.
And Santana takes care of Colon on 3 pitches to end the inning. Well, Jason Hayward helping out his pitcher with a fine diving catch. Take a base hit away from Ruben Tejada. Stays 1-0 Mets going to the third. Fifth for Free Shirt Friday when the Mets take on the Marlins at 7:10. All fans in attendance will receive a Mets-themed Empire State Building T-shirt, courtesy of Budweiser. For tickets, visit Mets.com/free-shirt-Fridays. New York Mets baseball is brought to you by Monster Energy Supercross. April 26th for the first time ever at MetLife Stadium.
Hey, beautiful. Bono's here. Big game. That looks like Canal Street glasses right there, Gary.
I was just going to say the future must be really bright. Andrelton Simmons takes strike one. Simmons hit leadoff last night, went 1 for 5 with Hayward out of the lineup, back in the 8-hole tonight. And Simmons punches one the other way, and he's got himself a leadoff hit. Second hit for the Braves against Cologne.
How'd you like to have this kid's future? I mean, I don't even think he's learned how to hit yet. Such a fine defensive player. He is starting to shorten his swing a little bit. Last year, of course, they have 17 home runs last season.
Yep. Very aggressive hitter. Santana up there looking to bunt. Santana, having played his whole career in the American League before this season, has had just 31 career at-bats.
Watch his top hand. He's just trying to pinch the bat so the ball won't hit his right-hand fingers.
Duda going to second and a wide throw, and they say that Tejada stayed on the bag.
Here
And
comes.
we'll see if Freddie Gonzalez has thoughts about that.
Here he comes. I think that now I'm going to try to act like the umpire here. I thought that play took Tejada off the bag. Let's see. We get lucky enough to see the replay. Hard bunt. Good play by Lucas. Hard bunt. You want to go to second. Let's see if this takes him off the bag. Boy, and you know, there we got the inconclusive thing that could happen here.
That's very ambiguous right there. You couldn't tell if his toe was still on, but maybe we have a different angle to show. And Freddie is not going to challenge, so we got the sign from the dugout that it was not clear and convincing. And I think that's really the game plan for managers early in the game.
Yeah.
If they're not 100% sure, they're not going to challenge. If they think it might be, but they're not sure. Now later in the game, 7th, 8th inning, when they still have the challenge in their pocket on a play like this, he might challenge.
Yeah, it looks like a toe is on the bag, and it's at least inconclusive. And what I like about that, aggressive play by Lucas. He knew it was bunted hard, and he went for the aggressive play.
And by the way, the call appeared to be correct, and it was a rookie umpire, Pat Hoberg, who made the call. We've talked a lot about rookie umpires because there are so many of them this year. And that was a very good call. So 1 out and 1 on.
What we're learning is that sometimes the play looks so bad that you're thinking he's got to be safe. But Tejada does such a nice job of playing a first baseman and having that toe on the bag, just barely.
There's your umpire crew tonight. Eric Cooper behind the plate. Mark Wegner at first. The aforementioned Pat Hoberg, a rookie, at second, and Tom Hallion, the crew chief, at third. 2-0 to Hayward, who grounded out to Duda his first trip. And Cologne gets it in at the knees.
We saw young umpire Toby Basner in Anaheim have maybe one of the best games I've seen at first base.
And then he went behind the plate.
Yeah. He's fine without the mask. We're working on the mask. That's next.
That was Cologne's game that Basner umpired on Sunday. The game where he threw David Wright and Daniel Murphy out of the game. Hayward wearing that piece across his jaw where it was broken last year by Jonathan Neese, and coincidentally or not, Hayward sat out last night against Neese. Flies this one to center right at Chris Young. Doesn't have to move an inch. And there are 2 out. So 2 out with the pitcher Santana running at first, and now B.J. Upton flying out to center his first time. And this certainly tonight so far has looked more like the Cologne who faced the Braves in Atlanta, and much less like the Cologne who got bombarded by the Angels last Sunday. work going on a baseball cap.
It's interesting. Can always go up a size, Kurt.
Maybe it's the hair. What is he cutting?
I've never seen anyone do that before.
You know, the guys on the bench, they have a lot of time.
Just bored.
I mean, if you cut that flap out, doesn't it get a little scratchy on the back of your head?
Yeah, exactly. It's like having the tag on the back of your shirt. Scratch your neck all game long.
Well, it seems like a lot of work. I hope it pays off.
Hope he doesn't snip his fingers off.
Well, another 3-ball count for Colon. He's already had 6 of them through the first 11 batters.
Boy, Upton's swinging the bat a lot better. I shouldn't say that. Let me say this. He's taking pitches so much better. It's almost like he's seeing the ball.
Right. He was swinging indiscriminately when we saw him in Atlanta, and he takes outside ball 4. So Colon issues his first walk of the night, and there are 2 men on for Freeman. Well, that's the last guy in the world that Bartolo Colon wanted to walk.
You want a little stat, Gary, coming into this game? Coming into this ball game, Upton and Uggla, first time in a Braves uniform that they both were hitting over 200.
That's amazing. Upton at 210, Uggla at 232. Well, here's Freeman, who singled to left center his first time. He bats with 2 out and 2 on. Colon working with a 1-0 lead in the third. And Freeman attacks the first pitch and fouls it back. Well, surgery having been performed, Kirk Neuenhuis's hat is back in place.
Okay, folks, I'll be all over that tomorrow before the game. I'll find out and we'll have the story.
See whether it was a partial tear of the hat band or a complete removal. Hat bandectomy.
The hat will be sent to a hospital of special surgery tonight. We'll have the full answer.
MRI?
Yeah.
0-1 to Freeman.
There's a phrase that ball players use. It's, see Upton there, hitterish. I know it's not a word, but ball players use it to talk about players that look like they are on every pitch, that they're going to hit a line drive every time they come up. Freeman looks like that.
Well, you were making the point his last at bat. In an era of cookie cutter swings, he is very unorthodox and seems to be able to cover every corner of the plate.
Kudos to the Braves for allowing him to retain his individuality.
Now Colon ahead on Freeman 1-2. He's able to foul off that fastball. Hardest pitch Colon's thrown so far tonight at 91.
Well, the one pitch that he has looked uncomfortable on versus Colon has been 2 called strikes that have started right at his hip and ended up on the inside corner. Let's see if Colon goes back to that well one more time. It's that Greg Maddux, Rick Reed kind of pitch for a strikeout.
And he does, and Freeman bounces it slowly. Colon off the mound and throws it down the line. Coming home to score is Santana. Now Upton trying to score. Granderson's throw home not in time. 2 runs come home on the throwing error by Colon, and it's 2-1 Atlanta. The Mets are arguing that the ball came off the foot of Freddie Freeman.
I was going to argue, I didn't think the foot. I think it came right off his leg, like his shin, because it took such a angle. It's in. Looks like it fouls off him. Let's see if it fouls off his body. Well, I can't see there because Colon's head is right in the way if it hit the front foot. Let's see. Boy, it's real close. Real close.
Collins is coming out. And
I mean, that's definitely going to be inconclusive there.
He's not going to the umpires. He's going to the mound. Maybe to ask his players what they saw.
He's asking Darno right now. Watch that front foot. Fouled, straight down. it's inconclusive. There's no way you can call that in his foot, because if you look at the indent, there's an entire shape of the baseball just outside the toe of Freddie Freeman.
I have a question for you, because I'm not 100% clear. Is that a reviewable play? That or hit by a pitch is a reviewable play, but whether a foul ball hit him or not,
I don't know.
Not 100% certain whether that is a reviewable play. Terry is talking to the umpires, and of course they can use their discretion here to, first of all, huddle up and see whether a different umpire had a different view of it.
I'm thinking, Gary, that's not a reviewable play.
I don't think it is, Ronnie.
Yeah.
I know, for instance, they can review a hit by pitch, but they can't review whether a hitter tries to get out of the way of the pitch.
We've seen many times when it happens, the home plate umpire doesn't see it. He asks his brethren. They'll say if it hit him or not. If we see that overhead shot again, guys, try to concentrate, if you can get to it, on right outside of his foot. There's a full circle where the baseball hit. Not that angle, but still. Hard to tell then. Here's the overhead. Now watch what the baseball leaves, the remnants of it, right outside the foot. See that circle? It's almost a full circle of a baseball in the dirt outside of his foot. Almost tells me that it did not hit his foot, because you have a full circumference of a baseball.
Well, the umpires all consulted, and then they came back to Terry and they talked to him, and they must have said that none of the other umpires saw it any differently, and I do not think that's a reviewable play. So 2 runs scored. They'll score at a single for Freeman, an error on Colon. Both runs score on the error, and the Braves have a 2-1 lead.
Sometimes the player will give it up the way he hit. You know, I'm going to say no, because most ball players, especially Freeman, he knows that's going to be just the ball out in front of the plate. They'll stay there and almost fake like it's hit their foot. He got out of the box and win.
Quickly 0-2 on Justin Upton. So that walk to B.J. Upton proves very costly for Colon. 2-out walk in front of Freeman. Freeman hit the ball about 20 feet and 2-run score. And Upton cracks a base hit. So on a 2-strike pitch, Justin Upton keeps the inning going.
See, the problem when you jam someone, you jam them so bad that there'll be unbelievable spin on the baseball. And I think that's what happened to me when it first hit. And before we had all these replays, I thought it was a foul ball, because it looked like it hit in the batter's box and then it went an opposite way to me, which means it hit his foot. But I guess it was spin.
It certainly took an odd turn. There's no question about it. But whether it was the spin, as you say, or deflecting off the foot, impossible to tell. And certainly the 4 umpires all seem to agree. And so the Braves get a couple of runs out of it. So now Gaddis will try and cash in further for Atlanta. Gaddis fly deep to right his first time up. 2 out and 2 on with 2 runs home in the inning. That just missed. The ball and a strike.
So what's Freeman get? A 1 RBI?
None.
None, right? Because
the infield hit, and then both runs score on the error. But I would think that last hit by Justin Upton made one of the runs earned.
Yeah, because Freeman's was a hit in an error as opposed to a straight error.
Right. So Upton's hit would have scored Santana had there been no error. Colon trying to put this inning to bed. And Gaddis keeps it alive.
You know, usually I would sit up here. It's much easier to pitch from up here and talk about a pitcher's inability to change things up. But you really can't do that with Colon, because he doesn't change it up. He's fastball after fastball.
Nobody covering, just a look at Freeman. Well, of course, that means with Colon that he has to be precise in every outing. Otherwise, there's just not a plan B.
And precise and down is the thing. From watching him pitch in Oakland and other places, and now here with the Mets, down is his strength.
Again, the 1-2 to Gaddis, and he struck him out with a high fastball. Third strikeout for Gaddis. Braves cash a couple of runs. Eric Young will be up for the Mets in the bottom of the third. Ewide getting on. Ewide stealing bases. First time tonight, trying to get even in their series with the Braves here at Citi Field after taking 2 out of 3 from Atlanta on the last road trip. Both the runs against Colon in the top of the third will be earned runs, despite Colon's error because of the following hit by Justin Upton.
So with that, if Freeman's infield hit, means the bases would be loaded with 2 outs if there's no error. And Upton comes up, gets a single, would have scored 2 because BJ on second base.
Scored Santana from third and BJ from second.
All right.
Eric Young leads off in the home third. Young walked, stole a base, and scored the Met run in the opening inning. 13 runs scored now for Young. He's up among the league leaders. Young, Murphy, and Wright against Irvin Santana in the third. And thinking about a drag bunt. That ball bounces 1-1. Irvin Santana, one of the free agents who got lost in the shuffle this winter after turning down a qualifying offer from Kansas City after pitching well for the Royals last year.
He's one of those guys that had a draft pick associated with signing him.
Much like Stephen Drew, who's still out there.
Kendrys Morales.
Right. Where do you fall on that? Is that something that the Players Association has to push to fix, or is it up to the individual player to know his situation and make the right call?
I'm always on the side of the player, it seems, and I'm not on the side here. I have no sympathy for a player that turns down a 1-year, $14 million plus contract. Both Morales and Drew, and certainly their representation, are not going to feel the same way I do. But I think that let's say in the case with Stephen Drew, shortstop is a premium position. He played for a world championship team. He thought all of that would parlay into a 3 to 5 year contract. It did not. it's really hard to feel any sympathy for someone turning down $14 million. Stephen Drew, before last season playing with that championship team, had some very iffy years after some great years in Arizona. So Irvin Santana had to kind of eat his medicine, take $14 million, and I think he made a nice decision. He's with a team that catches the ball. They're a good ball club, and he has a chance to win a lot of ball games and go back in like Nelson Cruz. But now you have a guy like Stephen Drew, who is a bona fide major league player. I don't know if he's sitting at home. He's in some camp somewhere trying to stay loose. It's a shame he's not playing, but at the same time, he's not the first player to overvalue himself with his representation.
And I think that's the point, right?
Yeah.
Is that, if you're a star, as Murphy flies one out to left and Justin Upton is there waiting for it. Young goes back to tag at first because Justin makes the catch and gets it in quickly. So 1 out and 1 on for Wright. If you're a superstar player, this isn't going to affect you. But if you're a tweener, and that's what Santana and Drew and Morales all are, they're tweeners. They're nice players, but they're not superstar players. Then you really have to, tread softly, but in turning down an offer like that.
Thinking about it this way, you have a choice between Matt Garza and Irvin Santana. Who do you take? All right, you probably take Irvin Santana, right? But Matt Garza gets picked up and gets a 4-year deal for $50-something million because he didn't have a pick associated with his name.
I think I would have taken Garza.
Oh, Garza, okay, okay, okay.
No knock on Santana.
Well, that's another good argument.
There goes Young, and Wright lifts one down the right field line. Hayward over near that sidewall, and it goes out of play.
I just look at a lot of the guys out there, Ubaldo Jimenez, Matt Garza. There's another one out there. Their entire career they've been 500 pitchers. This kid is not. He's 105 and 90, I believe, coming into this year. He's dependable as all. Two things work against him. He gives up a lot of home runs, and he's had a couple of down years.
But that's what I would argue, that he's a flip of the coin, because he's had some really good years and he's had a couple of 5+ ERA years.
But he takes the ball, and some of the other players have had some injuries. So, and Matt Garza last year traded to Texas in the heat of the pennant race when they needed him most. Probably had the most difficult starts he had all year.
Young goes again. It's a pitch out, and Gaddis's throw is on the money this time, and Young is tagged out. First time this year Young has been caught as the Braves guessed right and pitched out.
Freddie Gonzalez, the ex-catcher in the minor leagues, gives the sign to Gaddis. He gets it, disguises it pretty well, and it eliminated what we talked about before. Strike, good tag by Uggla. Remember we said before he would catch it, kind of hop and throw? Well, when you catch it on a pitch out, there was no hop at all. He was already standing up and threw a strike. All right, Freddie guessing right tonight.
Well, he's been aggressive with playing the infield in early in the game. They're aggressive with the pitch out. Wright pulls one just foul, 2-2.
I mean, this team won 96 games last year. He's pushing a lot of good buttons.
Well, it's been remarkable what the Braves have accomplished this year, particularly over the first 3 weeks with the depleted rotation. They've gone out and gotten a stopgap in Harang, who's been brilliant. A more expensive piece in Santana, who's been just about as good. Second strikeout for Santana as Wright goes down to end the third. 2-1 Atlanta. better known as the GW. We go to the fourth, 2-1 Atlanta. Let's check in with Kevin Burkhardt. Kevin?
You know, Gary, I thought tonight we'd take a look at one of the big trends in baseball on the uptick, and that is the shift in the infield. It has really taken off, and this year being used more than ever before. So we're going to look at both teams in this game, the Mets and the Braves, and their philosophy. But I got some good information from our friends at Baseball Info Solutions who really track this type of thing. And it's amazing. I mean, the last 2 years, the use of the shift, Tejada tries the run jump through and didn't have enough gusto on the throw, so Uggla beats it out. But the shift the last 2 years, the use of it in Major League Baseball has doubled. This year, it's on pace to go over 12,000 shifts. Last year it was over 8,000. So it's taking off. Teams are using it left and right. Astros and Yankees are the top two. Now the Mets and Braves are down lower in that pecking order. Mets 21st in the league. The Braves are almost dead last. They're 28th in the league. But there is some statistical analysis to back it up that it does work. The question is, what's the overkill? Last year, our friends at Baseball Info Solutions said that it saved around the game now. This is the whole game, 137 runs. And I found it interesting talking to both these teams, how they take the information, what they do with it, and how they decide to use it. So we'll go into that as the game goes on.
Well, it's a fascinating thing because, I mean, you look at the Braves, and they obviously don't shift hardly at all. Whereas there are some teams that seem to be shifting with every at bat. David Wright with a beautiful pickup, and Murphy with a turn for the double play. David Wright making like a highlight player with a gorgeous pickup on the shot by Chris Johnson. And the Mets turn the 5-4-3.
Sometimes you don't have to shift. All you got to do is flash some leather, as David did with that backhand. Quick release to Murph, and Murph uses the base as the buffer to get rid of that ball. I mean, this is kind of a do or die, folks. In between hop, that big third baseman's mitt, which changed with Robin Ventura 20 years ago.
Nice cesta.
That's exactly what it was. He really would have showed me something. He flipped it over there with the glove. That's what the highlight guys do. I love Kevin. Whenever he gets speaking about something very erudite, he always has a spot of tea next to him.
I picked the location depending on the story, Ronnie. It's all strategic.
It's very nice. Next we need to get him that pipe. Head out to right center field, and Granderson is there, and that retires the side. So it started difficultly for Cologne, turns into a 5-pitch inning. There's Kevin all set for a nice night in front of the fireplace. discussion last half inning about teams shifting or not. And as we mentioned, the Braves shift probably less than any other team in the National League. And Kevin, did you talk to Freddie Gonzalez about that?
Yeah, I did. And we've seen the Braves. They rarely do it. And if they do it subtly. And Freddie had some really interesting things to say. As much as we talk about the teams that do it and the success behind it, well, there's two things. First of all, they have a shortstop who's ridiculous. And Freddie Gonzalez said, when you have that animal over there, it kind of helps. But there were other more pointed comments. I think when you look at the information, that every team gets the same info, by the way. And when you look at it, you're breaking down a player. You can break it down in any timetable you want. Last 2 weeks, last month, last 2 years, whatever you want. But Freddie Gonzalez said, I'm interested in what these guys do against our pitchers. And quite frankly, most of them don't have a big enough track record against our pitchers to do a shift. And that's what I talked to Roger McDowell about a lot. He said, the theory too is when you shift, you kind of pitch to that shift. But who am I to say that, to tell our pitchers, hey, we're going to pitch like this? To me now, we're going away from our strengths. What if a pitcher isn't comfortable pitching to the outside against a certain batter, but he's doing it because that's where we're shifting? That makes no sense. I want our pitchers pitching to our strengths. That means leaving the guys where they are. So be it. I thought that was interesting.
Well, that certainly seems to be working for the Braves staff, which has been the best in the National League so far this year after a great year last year. Granderson pops one up into shallow center, and B.J. Upton is over.
I think don't downplay either the fine play of Freeman, who covers a lot of ground at first base. But Simmons is when I call Keith Hernandez an offensive defensive player, I mean guys that really make things happen defensively, and Simmons is certainly that. Kevin, the key to what you said is that everyone gets the same information. They break it down, whatever way they break down that information, then they try to use it in a game. But I think the most important thing is what you said Freddie does with his personnel. How do you break it down and how do you use it in a game with your personnel? Let's say you have a left-handed power hitter up, Lucas Duda. You're going to shift. That might take away Irvin Santana's fastball away from Duda, and that's one of his best pitches. So that's how you have to not only break it down, not only use the information, but know what kind of pitchers you have. In Tampa Bay, they play a lot of shifts, probably as much as anyone in baseball with the Baltimore Orioles. But one of their strengths, and they teach all of their pitchers, especially right-handers in the minor leagues, is that great changeup. So when they get in trouble against a left-handed power hitter, they go to the changeup away. What is a left-hander going to do in a changeup? He might hit it hard, but it's apt to pull the ball, and that's into the shift.
And I liked guys, Gonzalez telling me, hey, you're right. Everybody gets the same info, but generally teams take it, as a whole. Freddie Gonzalez and Roger McDowell looking at it as what they've done against their pitchers. And now face it, with Tim Hudson gone, there isn't much of a track record against any of these guys. At least enough data where you feel comfortable that, okay, here's a spot where certainly a lot of baseballs are hit. Let's move somebody there.
I think that's a really interesting difference, as Chris Young has his first hit as a Met, bangs one off the tarp, heads for second. Justin Upton's throw is offline, and Chris Young slides in safely with a double.
Well, that's got to feel great for Chris Young. Never got an at-bat in that game that he left with a tight quad. Comes back, has a game with no hit, but here gets a little hanging slider, one of the few from Santana, and pulls it down the line past Johnson, who plays on the line, so it tells you how hard he hits the baseball.
Which is an interesting point, too, when we're talking about shifts. When you have a player like Simmons, it enables Johnson to play closer to the line.
So if you're going to take one down the line, it better be hit as hard as that one was by Chris.
Duda double to right center his first time up. Tying run at second with one out. And the other thing that Kevin mentioned is, the difference between looking at the macro data, which is, a spray chart, which basically tells you, okay, it's 80% of his balls to the right side and 20% to the right side, as opposed to breaking it down. And I don't know how much individual clubs do this, pitch by pitch.
Yeah, count by count.
What pitch in what count does he hit to what spot, and matching that up with what your pitchers do. And Kevin talked about small sample sizes as Duda grounds one down to Freeman, and they make the out at first as Young goes to third. it's one thing to match it up directly with your pitchers, but at this point, baseball, you have the wherewithal to match it up with pitches that are similar to what your pitchers throw.
Well, we saw it once in the game today that Freddie Gonzalez with 2 strikes brought his infield in when David Wright had a runner on third. Kevin, I think even you're too young for this, but Gary and I are not. There was a day when a pitcher would stand on the mound, turn towards his fielders, and move 2 or 3 guys over because he knew how he was going to pitch against a certain hitter. Those days are gone, but it's almost gone like the quarterback calling his own plays.
I think Maddox was the last guy who did that. Travis d'Arnaud has to turn his shoulder.
Pretend you're Chris Johnson. I mean, that ball is what, 3 feet to his right? Maybe 4. Can't get it leather on it. That is a position not for everyone, that third base. More like a goalie there than any other position.
No mask though. Is there going to be a Jacques Plante of third baseman?
There we go.
First one to
First guy, right?
Well, they developed that new hat for pitchers to try and enhance their safety. But I don't know that many pitchers have adopted it.
Well, think about it this way. The only thing that would have saved Aroldis Chapman, who I don't know about you, I'm so happy he's back throwing, and looks like maybe within the month he might be back for the Reds, would have been some kind of safety goggles, sport goggles. That would have been the only thing that would have saved him. Maybe that's where we go with a plastic liner in the helmet and the hat for those who want to.
2-2 to d'Arnaud. And Travis lays off. Full count.
Nice at bat by Travis d'Arnaud. Some tough pitches. One up, just out of the strike zone, and that good hard slider down. Both taken nicely.
d'Arnaud 1 for 11 with runners in scoring position so far this year. That's about a runner to third in 3 of the first 4 innings. d'Arnaud trying to pick up Chris Young with the tying run as Santana wants a new ball.
It's funny, all the balls are supposed to be the same size, folks. Sometimes you get one and you go, this one is way too big. I got to have another one. It just doesn't feel right in your hands.
Is it actually too big?
No, it's not. It's just that whatever reason, the way it was rubbed up or the way it feels, it just does not feel right.
3-2. And d'Arnaud hits one down to Freeman. And he'll take it himself to retire the side. So the Mets get a double from Chris Young, his first hit as a Met, but the Braves stay in front 2-1 as we go to the 5th. Marlins at 7:10. The first 20,000 fans will receive a replica Mets batting helmet courtesy of Wise. For tickets, visit Mets.com/tickets. Bartolo Colon back to the mound for the 5th inning, down 2-1. Irvin Santana leads off, and Colon's former Angels teammate takes a strike.
Helmet day was one of the big days with bat day in my day, right?
Helmet day was huge at Shea. Now the Mets didn't often have bat day. I'm not sure they ever did. As Tejada throws out the jogging Santana for the first out. But helmet day was one of the big days of the year.
It had like that plastic insert so you could adjust it to make sure it fit your own dome, right?
One size fits all.
Oh, really? I thought they had it like they had the little nubs that would go in.
Oh, that's why you could.
Oh, you could adjust it. Okay. You know, I just don't like this, and I know people are going to say, listen, if you're a professional athlete, and I don't care if you're a pitcher, all you do is run for 4 days in between starts. It just looks bad. So I would recommend the 90 feet, 3/4, make it look good.
By the way, the same effort just shown by Santana got Bryce Harper benched this afternoon by Matt Williams.
Well, come on, this is entertainment after a while. You got a lot of young kids here. They're watching you play. They're asking their dad or mom right now, how come he didn't run to first? Every time I don't run to first, you scream from the stands.
Hayward is grounded out and flied out, and he hits one back through Colon. I don't know how it missed him or his glove. And Hayward's on first. Colon with evasive action on a ball that was headed for his forehead.
We saw one in Anaheim and one here, and one of the reasons that Bartolo Colon's able to get out of the way, watch how he finishes in perfect fielding position, gloves in front of him, and you say to yourself, I can't even express to you how fast that gets to you, and to be able to get out of the way like he did, good maneuver by Colon.
Well, he may be large, but he moves quickly.
He does.
B.J. Upton drew a walk and scored a run in the 3rd. He's 0 for 1. It was Colon's throwing error that brought in both Atlanta runs in the 3rd. B.J. fouls one at the plate.
You know, I was on B.J. earlier for I thought was a lackadaisical kind of throw into the infield. I will tell you, as Freeman's on deck, 2008, when he was at Tampa Bay and he played the Red Sox in that league championship series, I thought he might have been the best player in the game after that series. Scary how good he was.
And he cracks this one into center field for a hit. Hayward to second will stop there as Chris Young picks it up quickly. So back-to-back one-out hits for the Braves.
He's seeing the ball a lot better. Controlled swing. It doesn't look like he's trying to hit the ball 500 feet. Just up the middle, line drives. That's a nice swing. BJ might be on his way back.
Well, that he has great talent is unquestionable. Number 2 overall pick in the draft. His brother later went number 1. Great speed, power. Childhood friends with David Wright. He's got it all. Here's Freddie Freeman, who's 2 for 2.
You have to watch out here if you're Colon, because we saw Freeman do this to Gonzalez last night. Fastball in, changeup away, sitting on that changeup. He's thrown him in 3 or 4 times now. He might look in at least one pitch and might try to sneak attack him on that inside corner.
Pulls that one down the line. A base hit for Freeman. Motoring around third, Hayward. He'll score. BJ up to the third. He'll be held. Freeman slides in safely at second with an RBI double. Well, the Braves have a 3-1 lead. Freeman is 3 for 3.
Well, Freeman said a week ago when the Mets were in Atlanta that pitchers don't have anything to get him out right now. I thought it was extreme hubris. I could be wrong, because every night it's 2 or 3 hits from this young man. And good read by Hayward. Of course, he's going to score with those long legs and great speed. And B.J. Upton runs like a gazelle when I watch him. Long strides. Makes it look easy. And Freeman, not like a gazelle. More of a churner, a hustler.
Elk.
You know what was the hard part about it for Granderson there? Granderson probably had a play on him at second base, but he had to throw it through the cutoff, Gary, because if he tries and throws it over the cutoff, B.J. Upton could have taken a big turn, and DeCenzo could have been aggressive and sent him. Doug DeCenzo is their third base coach for the Atlanta Braves.
Well, there is Daisuke Matsuzaka throwing in the Mets bullpen. He was the backup to Colon tonight in case he couldn't go. Infield comes in for Justin Upton with 2 in scoring position, and Upton turns out of the way. Justin had a base hit to left field his last time up. So a run is in for the Braves here in the 5th. We were talking about Freeman in our open tonight, about how much damage he's done against the Mets. Nothing's changed.
Well, same open tomorrow, I guess.
It's now 10 for 20 against the Mets this year.
I disagreed with Freddie Gonzalez earlier in the game when he had the infield in. I don't disagree with Terry Collins, and not because he's the Mets manager, just that they haven't proven a lot of offense here at Citi Field. They've got one of their best pitchers out there. They need to try to keep both of these runs from scoring.
Colon is not a pitcher who normally lives on strikeouts, but this is one of those spots where you have to think strikeout.
Well, he's got him where he wants him. He's thrown 2 balls up and in. That is kind of an Achilles heel for Upton. He's a right-handed hitter who likes the ball down. So maybe his show is that little slider down or that fastball that he darts on the outside corner.
1-2 to Justin Upton. And Darno got enough of it to keep B.J. Upton at third.
The better the hitter, Gary, sometimes instead of showing him once inside and then going out with your out pitch, sometimes you have to show him twice to really get it in his brain that you are coming in. That's where you want to get him out. So Upton's got to think, boy, he's trying to get me out inside. I'm going to be ready. Twice might get him thinking that way to open up the outside corner. A lesser hitter, you only need to do it once.
B.J. Upton at third, Freeman at second. Justin Upton batting with the infield in. Alone at 80 pitches in the 5th inning. 2-2. Struck him out. Well, the strikeout that Colon really needed. And he gets it, fanning Upton for the second out.
Well, you said it, Gary. This is pitching. When you're not a strikeout pitcher, you pitch to contact, you said what, 83% of the time, maybe more than that? And that's your game, and you have to go out of your game because of the situation demands it.
So now 2 out. The infield can drop back for Evan Gattis, who's flied out and struck out. And Gattis lines one to left. Eric Young coming on and makes the catch. A bullet off the bat of Gattis, but Eric Young able to speed in and save Bartolo Colon a couple of runs. The Braves settle for 1 and lead it 3-1 halfway through. Braves 3-1. Well, it's a little chilly in the stands tonight. The scoreboard thermometer says 63. Maybe feels a little bit cooler with the wind blowing in from the north.
It's much warmer than it was last night. When I left the stadium, I was a little chilly.
It was downright cold walking out of the stadium last night.
I was up early this morning, and it was in the 30s.
He knows that goes the other way, right? Everybody decked out in their Mets regalia.
That's like a painter's hat now. That's a seller now. That one young lady had like a painter's hat on. I mean, that's what I call it, a painter's hat. I don't know what it's called exactly. Oh, and with the Elton John glasses. Very nice.
Elton or lady? Gaga.
Those electric boots.
Ruben Tejada will lead off the home fifth. Tejada bounces one down to third, and Johnson makes the pick. One pitch and one out for Santana in the home fifth. So Tejada, who was robbed of a hit by Hayward last time up.
But it's very interesting at this level. You see some stuff and you go, boy, that was very interesting. Didn't look it in, kind of looked away.
You would never teach it that way.
You would not. You would not. It was that's just great talent. Been playing forever. Watch his eyes. Supposed to look down in the glove.
Cologne's had some hacks tonight. No contact yet.
Well, he needs that ball to be on the middle of the plate in.
Second straight time he strikes out on 3 pitches. And Santana, with great dispatch, has the first 2 outs. Remember when Santana was really slowing down the pace earlier?
Yeah.
But that is not his game. He's generally a very fast worker, and we're seeing it now.
I think the reason he was, Gary, he's uncomfortable. He just didn't feel right. His control was off a little bit, but it's not now. He is, a lot of good pitchers, they will start off in a place that's uncomfortable, and as they kind of get into the ball game, now they start pumping those strikes in.
Well, he hasn't thrown enough strikes to Eric Young yet. He's walked him twice. The only 2 walks he's given up tonight. So Eric's on base percentage continues to blossom. He came into this game at .343, which, if he could do that on a full-time basis, would be terrific. And he takes ball 1 from Santana. Mets came into the season with outfield issues to deal with. 4 guys for 3 spots, and it's never come up yet.
Yeah,
because first Chris Young was hurt, now Juan Lagares is hurt.
It's like when they always talk about you have too many starters. It's going to be a problem for that 5th starter role, and then one goes down. It's like, oh no, we're all right now.
Well, they might have been waiting for the same to happen at first base, but nobody got hurt. Had to make a trade.
That's right.
By the way, Ike tonight, a double, a walk, and 2 runs scored. Pirates are up 6-5 on the Brewers in the 5th.
Brewers best team in the National League, right now.
12-5. And Young is down on strikes. Eric has struck out in every game he's played this year. 22 strikeouts for the season. After 5, 3-1 Atlanta. Well, it was 4 years ago today that Ike Davis made his major league debut on Jackie Robinson Day. Had himself a big day. Got himself a shaving cream pie from Jeff Francoeur. And now 1 day shy of 4 years later, he's traded away and making his debut for the Pirates tonight. 4 years to the day after his debut with the Mets.
Strange game, isn't it? I mean, it's
Dan Uggla pulls one toward the hole. Tejada on the back end, and the throw is true for the first out in the 6th.
Well, I tell you, when Tejada lets it go occasionally, he's got something on it, and he knows that Uggla, who beat out an infield single before, can run. Gets him easy.
By the way, watching a throw to first base and talking a moment ago about Milwaukee playing Pittsburgh, did you see the broken ball last night?
Oh, they did. That Alvarez had the throw to first base.
Martin Maldonado for the Brewers. It looks like a routine ground ball to third, and half the cover of the ball came off.
It was like Malamud, the natural.
Well, but that's usually when you hit it 500 feet. You tore the cover off the ball, not when you hit it 90 feet down to third base.
And I like what Alvarez did because he knew that it was broke, so he's just trying to bounce it in there, but it stopped like it was Wrigley Field grass from the 70s.
It was like he was playing badminton and he was trying to throw a shuttlecock.
Oh.
1-2 to Chris Johnson, who hit one very hard down to David Wright into a 5-4-3 double play his last time up. Colon made an error that cost him 2 runs in the 3rd, gave up 3 hits and a run in the 5th, but did well to work out of further trouble in that inning. Trying to keep the Mets around. Let's check in with Kevin for more on the shifty ways of defensive teams these days.
Well, this time from a Mets perspective, speaking with Tim Tuffle, who coordinates this stuff for the team, and he looks at all the data going back 2 years normally, but he said, there's really, you have to be careful because tendencies change. And he gave me an example. Matt Adams, a guy who we'll see here this week when the Cardinals come into town, he said that's a guy I would for sure shift on, but his tendencies lately, he's going up the middle a lot, so that changes my thinking on that. Generally, when I'm looking at all the data, Tuffle tells me if something is 80% of the time in a certain spot, that gets my attention. Then I'm really starting to look at it. But there is, I think with all this data, with all the analyzing, you can break it down into different time segments, different opponents. As right to Young for the out. There's a human element here. And he said there's 2 things. Depends on the pitcher pitching. The guy pitching's got plus stuff. That changes my mind about a shift sometimes. And the other thing is just watching. Sometimes, when watching, some guys can't go the other way. You see how a hitter's swinging. Maybe your report when you watch him in person doesn't really match, so you take it off a little bit. So there is that human element to go along with all the data.
Now, what we were talking about before, you were talking about the way the Braves look at how hitters hit against their pitchers. Do the Mets break things down in a more micro way, or are they looking more at the macro data?
Well, they look at it in every way, Gary, but Tuffle is really, he looks generally in bigger picture terms just to try and get the best idea overall. He looks at all of it. He told me all those different breakdowns, and he's trying to take the general idea of what it all represents. I mean, that's when you think about it too, it's a lot to go through. It's a lot to sift through and kind of make into something that you could use for a series.
I'm sure it's got to be incredibly tedious to go through all that and then have to present the report that is going to give your team the edge.
Tejada circles in on the Simmons ground ball, and a nice pick by Duda on the other end to retire the side. 1-2-3 inning for Cologne. Mets will have David Wright coming up. Curtis Granderson behind him as they come to bat in the bottom of the 6th, trying to come from 2 runs down against Atlanta. Well, Irvin Santana is making his third start for the Atlanta Braves. He's now worked 19 innings and given up a total of 2 runs. One against the Phillies in his last start, and one against the Mets tonight.
Hey, listen, I love my man Roger McDowell. Okay, played with him. You know, he gamer of all gamers. But there's got to be something more about when you come to the Braves, and I don't know if it's because of Maddox, Smoltz, and Glavine, but it just seems that your level of what you do on the mound, it's like I'm with the royalty of baseball as far as pitching concerned, and I've got to live up to the standards that were set years ago. That's how it feels to me.
Murphy shoots one off the glove of Johnson and into left field. Simmons runs it down, and Murphy's aboard with a leadoff single. Bullet, Johnson would have done well had he been able to catch it, but really just getting a glove on it was a pretty good effort.
He would have done better if he wasn't playing for the bunt, playing even with the bag. No reason with Murphy, who never bunts, and I'll use that again, never ever bunts for a base hit, playing even with the bag. You're playing 3 steps back, can of corn.
So that gets David Wright to the plate as the tying run in a 3-1 game. David drove in the Mets run with a first inning single, extended his hitting streak to 10 games, and he struck out to end the third.
Guys, just one last thing. I wanted to wrap up this shift conversation with Murphy. I asked from a hitter's perspective how you handle it, and the Braves didn't do it, but in Anaheim they shifted over behind second base. He said, look, as a hitter you see it and you notice it, and it depends on the pitch. Certainly, you know, I see it there and I try to go the other way, but what you can't do, you can't take away 80% of the field. You can't think, okay, there's that hole open, I'm going to go that way and get a base hit. If the pitch is there, certainly I'll try to go that way, but you've got to realize I'm not going to give away that gap double for that hit the other way.
You know, there's a whole generation, Gary, when you think about it. Let's think about it, David Ortiz. So for the last, what, half dozen years of his career, anything hard hit to the right side is an out. And that'll be for the rest of the time he plays. You know, there's been studies, I think it was in the New York Times, I could be wrong, a couple of seasons ago that was trying to explain Mark Teixeira's dip in batting average from a 280 kind of hitter down to a 220, 240 hitter. And they really pointed out that the shift had taken away just so many hits that were.
Slider gets right looking. Strikeout number 5 for Santana. Second time he's gotten David.
This is the one that starts right at David. You can see inside, they're starting it right at his belt buckle, and it bends over that inside part, not even the inside corner. Most breaking pitches, the right-handed hitter just starting middle away, trying to bend it out of the strike zone. That's how he struck him out before. This one he threw at him.
Now Granderson with 1 out and 1 on. Now answer me this: why do we see so many shifts against left-hand hitters and so many fewer against right-hand hitters?
Well, there's a couple of reasons for it. One is that you tend not to get right-handed hitters who are straightly pull on the ground, but also if they do pull on the ground and you have the second baseman with the second baseman's arm on the other side of second base, if he gets the ground ball, he won't have sometimes the arm to make the play over there. We saw it with Mike Trout. I don't know if it was the Mets or someone else had someone playing right up the middle for Trout. The second base playing right up the middle. He had a ground ball to the second baseman. He beat it out to first base because he couldn't get to the ball quick enough or have the arm strength to throw him out.
Granderson fouls off the changeup. Well, that's what Santana has done tonight. Coming into the game, he threw his slider 33% of the time. It's been a little higher tonight.
13% seems a bit high. In the games I've watched, but maybe his second start he threw more.
2-1 to Granderson. Fouls off that one. I would say Trout is the aberration.
Yeah, no, but I know
the right-handed pull hitters. But if you get a guy like Mark Trumbo's a good guy.
Pull holes.
I mean, Mets didn't shift overshift against those guys. You know, neither one of them is going to beat out an infield hit.
And what's interesting against the left-handed hitters, they'll play the complete shift. But like against the David Ortiz, the outfield is straight up, you know, because in the air, they tend to hit the ball straight away. On the ground, it always is a pull.
Curtis looking a little frustrated, getting nothing but off-speed stuff after Santana fell behind him 2-0. Granderson 0 for 6 in this series, 4 for his last 35. Trying to find a place to bust out. And he pops it up. Hayward coming in from right, Upton from center, and Upton and he drops it, but Murphy didn't see it, and it'll easily be forced at second. Murphy, even after that ball was on the ground, was moving back toward first base. I don't think Murph saw it fall. As Upton didn't quite get there, but still is able to get the out as Hayward picks it up and gets the force at second.
Well, Upton called the ball, and he never lost it. It's just that he muffed it. I mean, completely muffed it. Instead of catching it in front of him, he catches it off to the side, barely gets a tinge of leather on it. And Murph, this is a tough play. I mean, at this level of the game, after you see a guy in center field make the call that he has it, not that you assume he's going to catch it, but at this level, that ball's caught 99% of the time. Can't blame Murph there.
So it goes as a 9-6 fielder's choice for the second out. Granderson now at first for Chris Young, who picked up his first Mets hit, a double over third base in the fourth inning, and a pitch out. And Granderson's not going anywhere. They pitched out earlier and guessed right with Eric Young. They threw him out in the third.
You know, sometimes when we watch plays, Gary, it tends to be a smokescreen for something else. Curtis Granderson had a pitch that was a hanging slider that he missed. And, you know, when you're going through a tough time, that's what happens, is that pitch you crush is you're just missing it. I think Terry Collins addressed that, didn't he? He said that at home it tends that when they get that pitch to crush, and look at that ball. That is a ball that Granderson crushes. When he's hot, that ball's a home run. That's in the seats, but not right now.
Two-0 to Young, and a check swing foul. No initials. You've got Young number 1 and Young number 22.
I know it's hard for me. I put Cy in my notebook here for Chris Young, and that certainly doesn't apply to an everyday player.
Well, he is CY.
That's right.
It's not Cy. And Chris went around in the half swing. Eric Cooper making the call himself, and it's 2-2.
The home plate umpire called it and then asked down for help at first base. I thought, maybe I read it wrong. He definitely called it.
And I'm not 100% certain that was a swing.
Yeah, I didn't think it was a swing.
I mean, close enough that he should have asked first. Granderson at first with 2 out. 2-2 to Chris Young. And Santana strikes him out to end the inning. 6 strikeouts for Irvin Santana. Mets get a leadoff hit and strand a runner, down 3-1 after 6. .com. Mets at a 1-0 lead in this game. They've led in all but 2 games they've played this year at some point or other. But a Bartolo Colon throwing error cost a couple of runs in the 3rd, and a Freddie Freeman RBI double that tacked on a run in the 5th. And the Mets, who have not scored much here at Citi Field, have been held to just 1 run so far in this series, and so Urban Santana is able to smile as he steps in. Santana's bunted into a fielder's choice and scored a run, and then grounded out 0 for 2.
That's funny.
He's got the Al Leiter system going.
No,
show bunt and pull the bat back.
He just told Colon, they must be friends. Well, obviously they're friends. Told Colon, I'm going to bunt on the left side. Let's see if you can make the play. Obviously he was kidding.
Maybe not. Just lying in wait.
Well, if he runs the same way he did last time, he's going to have a pretty perfect bunt. And I laughed, but he had a bullet against the Mets in his first start this year.
Strike 3 called. Strikeout number 5 for Bartolo Colon. Well, this is again, it's a small sample, 2 homestands and 1 road trip, but I mean, look at the numbers. Mets are hitting 160 at home, scoring more than 2 runs per game more in their road games than in their home games, and this is really a continuation of what's gone on the last couple of years.
I know my job, folks, is to explain. I don't got it. I don't have it for you yet. Give me some time.
Jason Hayward takes a big rip at a fastball. Mike Davis just got another hit. It's 2 for 2 and a walk tonight.
How to win friends and influence people.
Who's gonna
start?
Who's gonna hit him with the shaving cream pie? Who's in charge of that in Pittsburgh?
Let me see. In Pittsburgh, no, it can't be, because he's the closer. I was thinking Jason Grilli, because he's kind of a free spirit, but he's the closer. So maybe a Clint Barnes.
Jordy
Mercer.
Popped it up into shallow left, and Eric Young right there. And Hayward is retired, 2 out. So Colon's now retired 7 in a row. Right at 100 pitches for the night. B.J. Upton, the batter. Well, Daisuke Matsuzaka is up for the 2nd time. This is a guy who has made 1 relief appearance in his major league career, and they're getting him warmed up like he's a regular reliever.
Interesting. I thought they would maybe have him throw like a side, Gary, because of the blister problem with Mejia. I think you'd like him to do exactly what he did tonight, be kind of a buffer in case Colon's back acted up. He could come in. The same should be for in case Mejia can't take the hill because of that blister.
Well, does the fact that he got up earlier mitigate this being a kind of a side session now?
What it tells me is that Mejia threw today and everything is A-OK. That's what it tells me.
BJ takes an off-speed pitch for a strike.
Colon's mad. That was supposed to be a slider that backed up. That's why he was kind of throwing his hand in front of him, saying, I got to get through that baseball. But it worked.
Trying to finish off what will probably be his final inning with Freeman on deck. 1-2 to BJ, and the slider in for a call, strike 3. So he threw it better that time. Gets his 6th strikeout. Colon's retired 8 in a row. He's turned in 7 creditable innings, but the Mets down 3-1. 1 o'clock right here on New York's Picks 11. Bartolo Colon done after 7, 104 pitches. Gave up 3 runs and 8 hits. Struck out 6. Mets will try and get some runs for him here in the bottom of the 7th. As Lucas Duda takes ball 1.
It's like, yeah, thanks for the fist bump, guys. How about a couple of runs?
Well, he gave up 8 hits, but the one throw he'd like to have back was the one he made to first base. It was a really odd play, a ball that looked like a foul ball. As Duda cracks one to center field, Upton ranging back. Over his shoulder, he makes the catch. Didn't take a great angle to that ball, but B.J. Upton able to get back and grab it, 1 away.
Well, I think what happens on that ball, Gary, it starts to move back towards kind of left field. So he couldn't turn around, so he had to kind of turn his body and open up his shoulders and get his head back so that ball could pass and then into his glove.
So 1 long out and nobody on. Travis d'Arnaud 0 for 2 tonight. He's hit into a fielder's choice and grounded out. Travis 0 for 5 in this series, 6 for 44 to begin the season. And d'Arnaud hits one up the middle for a base hit. And Travis d'Arnaud gets aboard with the Mets' 5th hit of the night.
Gets us a little bit off the end of the bat, but no mind. When you're hitting like Travis is right now, you don't care how you get your base hits. Pretty good pitch by Santana.
So now Tejada, the batter. Kirk Neuenhuis has come out on deck to pinch hit. Would you think about using Quintanilla to bat for Tejada in this spot?
I don't know if I'd bat Quintanilla. You know, hate to use 2 players, but I might think of someone who has some pop in this situation.
Brown or
yeah, exactly. Take a shot at the title. You know, you hate to use 2 players. I totally understand that.
I was just thinking to get a left-handed bat against that slider. Ruben right now in a 2 for 26 hole. 8 for 47 to begin the year. d'Arnaud at first. Neuenhuis out on deck to bat for the pitcher. And Tejada takes just inside. 2-0. Braves bullpen is quiet with Santana at 95 pitches. He went 8 innings against the Mets in his first start, 6 innings against the Phillies with 11 strikeouts in his second start, and now working into the 7th tonight. There's strike 2-1.
That's big league pitching right there, folks. 2-0 slider. You know, Tejada's got to think like everyone else in the ballpark. He's going to get a 2-0 fastball. Instead, throws that slider because he knows he's going to get an automatic strike, and now he's gotten himself back into the count.
Tejada saws one off into right field, and that falls for a hit. d'Arnaud pulls in at second, and the Mets have the tying runs on base. Not all that different than the ball Hayward caught earlier in the game against Tejada, but this one a little shallower, falls in.
Not only shallower, but it got up on the hands of Tejada, so did not hit it with any fervor, did Tejada. So that's why it chopped gently into right field for the single.
Roger McDowell heading out to the mound. Luis Avilan, the left-hander, just got up in the Atlanta bullpen, so Santana's going to stay in to face Neuenhuis, the pinch hitter.
Well, if Neuenhuis had been mentioned and Avilan was ready, and Avilan came in, I'm sure the Mets would then bring Andrew Brown instead of Neuenhuis. You know, I think it seems to be the issue with the Mets the past few years, Gary, is that you have a guy like Neuenhuis, he comes up and has the game of his life, and now he's a bench player. I'm not saying it's the wrong thing. I mean, you have a lot of good players that are out there that need to play, but this is how he's going to make his mark right now.
Well, the Mets with an opportunity here. Neuenhuis pinch hit last night, got sawed off by Harang and hit a soft liner to second. And Kirk takes a rip, 0-1.
Well, slider down and in. Almost all of the guys that come off the bench to pinch hit, they're very aggressive on that first pitch. So is Neuenhuis.
He's been very successful as a pinch hitter. Gaddis knocks it down. Darno thought about making a break for third, thought better of it.
Big man is nimble. I'm really impressed with his blocking of the baseball. What I'm ready to see from Neuenhuis, can he handle the 92 plus upstairs? That fastball that eluded him the last couple of seasons is where I want to see as he made the change.
Lays off that fastball. Santana's 100th pitch of the night. Memory serves, Kirk's highlight last year was a walk-off 3-run homer. He's got a couple of men on base here, with the Mets down by 2. Just got a piece of that one, 2-2.
There was a good swing on that breaking ball, just out of the strike zone. But as far as the speed of it, he had it locked in. Now, last year, every single time a team had him in this situation, you'd see a letter high fastball. Let's see if the Braves remember that book.
Well, he's talked about cutting on down on his swing, reducing the strikeout. Struck out just 8 times in 42 at bats at Vegas. See if he can put one in play here. 2 on and 1 out. 2-2 to Neuenhuis with Eric Young on deck. And Kirk tries to lay off, but he went around, strike 3. And ultimately the slider was his undoing. 7 strikeouts for Irvin Santana, 2 out.
It's going to be a close one here. Kirk does not think he went around. Hard slider this time. Boy, it doesn't look like he went there. Let's see from the overhead. I would not call that. That is not going around.
Tom Hallion, the crew chief, made the call from third base.
You know, I told Keith the other day, my theory is that something went around the league, that they are going to be very aggressive with that call, because they have been so far.
So now 2 on and 2 out for Eric Young, who's walked twice and struck out tonight. And he takes a strike. Ely stole a base and scored the Mets' only run back in the first inning. Darno at second, Tejada at first, and 2 down. And it bounces away from Gaddis, and Darno will go to third. Tejada did not break from first base, but Darno read it well with the play right in front of him and took third base.
Well, that's a shame there. Darno, nice going. He saw the ball glance off to the left. Let's watch what Tejada's doing. He's got his eye in there. Boy, that's a play that you hate to see, the overly conservative play. Now, if you want to tell me, was he looking at Darno to see if he went? He was not. He had his eyes on the catcher the whole time. Didn't have as good a read as Darno.
So the tying run remains at first base. 1-1 the count to Eric Young, with Daniel Murphy on deck, and the left-hander now ready in the bullpen. 1-1 from Santana, and it misses high.
The reason that you have the kind of read Darno had there is that you are anticipating not one pitch, every single pitch you're anticipating it's going to be in the dirt. That's why you get that kind of jump.
Well, he had one earlier that he thought about going and held up judiciously. Young bounces one for Uggla, and the shovel to Simmons gets Santana out of the 7th inning. Mets will go to the bullpen as we go to the 8th. 3-1 Atlanta. A 100,000 Reasons event now through April 30th. Mark Burley now 4-0, 7 innings, 4 hits. Toronto shut out Cleveland 5-0. Max Scherzer struck out 9 in 7 innings. The Tigers beat the Angels 5-2 despite Albert Pujols' career 498th home run. And Oakland got 3 in the bottom of the 9th, capped off by a Josh Reddick RBI single to beat Houston 4-3. The A's are now 12-5 on the season. Irvin Santana coming off the field after 7 strong innings. 3rd straight outstanding start for Santana after signing with the Braves.
When you give up 1 run in 7 innings, Gary, you really love your catcher. You know, he just really had a good day.
Daisuke Matsuzaka will make just his 2nd career relief appearance.
He did it once for Boston against the Los Angeles Angels. He was outstanding in AAA. ERA in the 2s, 12 strikeouts in 12 innings. He went 3-3, as you see there, for the Mets last season.
Well, this is the spot you want to bring him in if you're going to use him in relief, where he's had adequate time to warm up. He got up earlier in the game when Colon was struggling, sat down, and he had, I would say, a good 20 minutes to warm up. So it's almost like a starter.
I was going to say he's been warming up for 45 minutes, but you know, routine is key for guys who start, and Terry wanted to only get him in this kind of situation.
And he's brought in only to face the best hitter in baseball right now, Freddie Freeman.
Break out the gyro.
Freddie's 3 for 3 today, 2 singles and a double. Daisuke had himself a terrific spring, and he was frankly shocked and made no bones about it when Henry Mejia was selected over him for the 5th starter's job. Daisuke pitched wonderfully late last season for the Mets after a rocky beginning. His last few starts were great. It was like somebody flipped a switch when he made that outing in Cleveland in early September.
Well, he's going to be the insurance, and now John Lannon is going to be the insurance in AAA as far as the veteran pitchers are concerned.
Lannon today accepted his assignment to Las Vegas, which I find interesting. You know, Lannon had the option of declaring free agency after the Mets outrighted him. Obviously, his agent must have asked around to see if there were any teams interested, and obviously the answer for now was no, and he took the assignment to the minors. Strike 3 called, and Freeman knew it. And after teasing him, Daisuke goes to the fastball to strike out Freeman, who's retired for the first time tonight.
That's a perfect little cutter on the outside corner. Just starts out there, and it's on the knees. That's the key. Nice pitch. Kind of give up on it a little. See how Freddie gave up on it, and then he just knew. Time to put the helmet down.
So 1 out and nobody on. Now Justin Upton, who's 1 for 3 tonight. Bartolo Colon went 7 innings, allowed 3 runs, 8 hits, a walk, 6 strikeouts. 104 pitches for Colon. Hit hard, and that's through the hole for Justin Upton's 2nd hit of the night. Hit number 9 for the Braves.
Well, there's that little slider. See that dot on it was so big. That means the ball's not breaking a lot. And Upton all over it.
Here's Evan Gattis 0 for 3. Last time up with a couple of men in scoring position. Gattis hit a seed to left field that Eric Young was able to come in and grab. That saved Colon a couple of runs. There goes Upton, and Darno's throw is high, and Justin Upton has a stolen base, his 2nd of the year.
Well, Matsuzaka threw over, and then here goes to the breaking ball. Watch the windup of Darno. He loses the handle just enough. That's why that ball is up in the strike zone. Real solid jump. Upton's got it all. He doesn't run a lot, but his speed is. He could be easily a 20 stolen base guy.
Curveball saws him off. Rolled down to Duda. And he makes the play on Gaddis for the second out as Upton goes to third. So Dan Uggla comes to bat with a runner at third and 2 out. Uggla 1 for 3, had an infield single in the fourth.
So we see where the starting pitcher by trade pitches with 2 outs here with a guy in third. Looks like he's going to pitch from the stretch.
Off the mitt of d'Arnaud. Here comes Upton, and he scores. And it's 4-1 Atlanta. It's a wild pitch charge to Matsuzaka to bring in the fourth Atlanta run.
Well, it might be a wild pitch, and I take that away. I mean, that ball's way in the other batter's box. You hope when you hit leather that your catcher will make that play. But on the first pitch to a batter, the catcher's expecting a ball to be close to the strike zone. And that was not.
So a single, a stolen base, a ground down, and a wild pitch. And Upton produces a run. And Daisuke behind on Uggla 2-0. Chris Johnson would be next.
Now you talk about stolen bases. People want to, his percentage and how many steals. Well, that was a little steal by a guy who doesn't steal a lot of bases, but it was the perfect time to do it because you're trying to add on runs. They catch a break with the wild pitch and get one across.
Curveball in for a strike, 2-2. Well, one thing that's nice to see, and residual from last year, is Daisuke working at a much better clip than when he first came to the Mets. Full count now to Uggla. He struggled through his first 3 starts for the Mets. Looked like he might not get another chance. They threw him out there against Cleveland, the team that had not brought him up last year, which was a little extra incentive. But Dan Warthen finally convinced him to work at a better pace, and it paid off for him.
It's interesting, right? He had all those years with John Farrell, who I think everyone would agree is as good a pitching coach as can be when he was in Boston under Terry Francona, now the manager, of course, of the Red Sox. And it's Dan Warthen who's able to kind of get through to him.
There's ball 4 and Uggla's on. Well, maybe the Red Sox didn't quite care so much about those things. After all, they had Josh Beckett, who was even slower than Daisuke.
That's part of it, but I think the bigger part of it is that once you eat humble pie, Gary, you're willing to change things. And when you're not the top banana, you do what you're told because you want to get another shot.
You're not drawing those $52 million posting fees anymore.
There you go.
There's Chris Johnson. He rifles one into left field. So Johnson has his first hit of the night. Uggla pulls in at second, and the inning continues.
And Johnson has definitely made an adjustment. The Mets have been trying to pitch him in, and you can pitch him in, but belt up, not thigh down. This ball's down, thigh down, and his swing is just tailored for that pitch.
Well, he had 3 hits last night. He's hit 3 bullets tonight, although he only has 1 hit. Wright made that tremendous pickup to start a double play. He lined out his previous time up, and now that base hit to left. Here's Simmons with 2 out and 2 on. And a check swing roller to the right side. Duda vacated, but Daisuke gets over to cover for the 4-1 putout, and that retires the side. The Braves tack on a run on a wild pitch and lead it 4-1. Mets have 2, 3, and 4 in the order coming up in the bottom of the 8th. Join Suki, Corey, and Linda for the Pix 11 Morning News, where every story hits home. We go to the bottom of the 8th. David Carpenter takes over the pitching for Atlanta. Carpenter, the product of West Virginia University, making his 7th appearance of the season. It's going to be interesting to see if we find Craig Kimbrell on the mound for the 9th. Kimbrell hasn't pitched in a week because of some shoulder problems. He has thrown on the side since and pronounced himself healthy after a scare went through Braves land. Carpenter, though, in to pitch the 8th with the Braves leading 4-1.
Well, David Carpenter had a brilliant year for this team last year. We've talked about him many times as a catcher originally and then turned into a pitcher. Had some kind of journeyman years, didn't get it until he came in the bullpen last year, and it was just outstanding. His year ended in such a brutal way, though, with the 3-run home run he gave up to Juan Uribe of the Dodgers in the postseason.
Murphy 1 for 3 tonight, and Daniel takes a strike, 1-1. Wright and Granderson to follow as the Mets try and fight back here in the 8th. The Mets have had 16 innings at bat in this series. They've managed 1 run and 7 hits in those 16 innings against an Atlanta pitching staff that has just been remarkable. Saw it off. He bloops one that Uggla can't catch. And Murphy is aboard. Not sure exactly what happened to Uggla on that play, but it looked like he had it lined up.
Well, I think it was a little bit of a knuckleball, and it also carried an Uggla, and my third thing is I think he thought it was very easy play when it originally came off the bat, and then it fooled him.
Somehow that was scored a base hit.
I put base hit. I figured it. It's a little different scoring these days.
That makes Murphy happy.
Yep.
So that's 2 base hits he's had off fielders' gloves tonight. A bullet off Chris Johnson's glove, and now a knuckleball off Uggla's glove. So now David Wright, who drove in the only Met run with the first inning single, 1 for 3, and Carpenter nicks the outside corner. So with Santana having gone 7 innings tonight, giving up 1 run through their first 17 games now, the Braves starters ERA 1.46. 1.46. Down the right field line, Hayward on the run, and it drops in for a base hit. Hayward trying to corral it against the sidewall. He'll hold right to a single as Murphy goes first to third. That's a fine play by Hayward because it's so close from the line to the sidewall. A lot of times balls will squirt to the corner.
Well, first, hanging slider and good hitting by David. But I thought this ball was definitely going to get by him because of the angle he took. And Murph, of course, is going to make it first to third with the read. But if we can check Hayward again, give me that picture down the line. Is that he almost made like a hockey player. You know how you go up against the boards and you kind of make sure that you get there so it can't get by you, and it carrying back in a good place for him.
Wright was not going to take any chances, down by 3 runs. Now you got Granderson to the plate as the tying run. Curtis has been itching for a big moment as a Met. He's got a chance right now. And he takes a fastball strike from Carpenter at 96. Granderson 0 for 3 tonight, 0 for 7 in this series. As you see, just 2 for 13 with runners in scoring position. He's got 1 home run. He's driven in 4 through his first 55 at bats as a Met. And he pops one up on the left side. Simmons watches Johnson grab it, and that's the first down. And Granderson starting to hear some boos from the fans at Citi Field.
You know, there's nothing you can say. This young man, Carpenter's throwing 96 miles an hour. The ball's right down the middle, maybe a little up, and it beat him.
So the frustration continues for Granderson. Now Chris Young, who's 1 for 3, double down the left field line in the 4th. And he hits one through the hole, a base hit. Murphy comes in to score. Wright stops at second. Chris Young with his first RBI as a Met, and it cuts the Braves lead to 4-2.
Interesting. Every time that Carpenter has thrown a breaking ball, its end result has been a base hit. Here, first pitch slider trying to get me over a strike, and Young said no, not tonight.
Chris Young with a double and now an RBI single. Now the Mets have the tying runs on base, and Lucas Duda coming up. Duda 1 for 3, double to right center back in the second. And a long fly ball to center that B.J. Upton ran down his last at bat. Right at second, Chris Young at first. Mets have 9 hits. They're in need of a big one now.
No one looking over his shoulder. Let's see what happens for Lucas.
And he takes a fastball for a strike. By the way, Ike finally made an out.
Well, Lucas could have a nice answer right here.
Oh, 1 from Carpenter, and he takes another fastball right down the middle for a strike, and it's 0-2. So Duda's put himself in a hole. Carpenter goes up and away, and Lucas did not swing. Tom Hallion gives him a pass.
I'm wiping my brow with all you Mets fans. Fastball up. Ooh. He's just so strong.
Yeah, but I think he went further than Neuenhuis did when Neuenhuis got punched down. But I think you're right. I think Lucas is better at checking his swing than anybody on this team. 2 aboard and 1 out. Mets down by 2 in the 8th. And Duda bounces one foul. First breaking ball he's seen.
The slider by Carpenter is not his best pitch. It's got a little roundhouse on it, and he's throwing that ball down and in to Duda. I think if what you're gonna see, and if watching Kimbrel a lot, Gary, that fastball up in the strike zone, out of the strike zone, is a place to attack for Carpenter, and a place for Lucas if he can take it to get back in this at bat.
One and 2 to Duda. Another slider, another foul ball. Carpenter's now given up 11 hits in 6 1/3 innings this year.
The postseason hangover, I'm telling you, happens to every relief pitcher.
True story.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do until you have some sustained success. He's trying to do it here.
That's trying to jump on him here in the 8th with a run already home. And Duda launches one to right field, but Hayward going back onto the warning track, right near the wall. He's got room to make the catch. Just quite didn't get enough. And that's the second out of the inning.
Again, fastball right there. Took 2, finally swung at this one. And into this cold night, no carry for Lucas Duda and the Mets.
He did not miss by much.
It's not exactly on the sweet spot. Once we push it out, you'll see that just maybe, boy, 2 inches, 3 inches towards the end of the bat. That's about it.
But we've seen him hit it out without hitting the sweet spot. Not that time, though. On this night. Luis Avila, the left-hander. Jordan Walden, the right-hander, staying busy. Mets up the tying runs on base and 2 out. And Travis d'Arnaud, the batter. Travis 1 for 3. Right at second. Chris Young at first.
We've seen d'Arnaud attack first pitch. That is his mode.
And he takes inside. Did it hit him?
I thought it hit him. If it didn't hit him, it might have hit the knob of the bat.
They check it first, and they say no swing. What did that hit? Did it hit the glove?
Yep.
Hit the glove. Okay.
Did it hit the back of the bat?
If the glove hit the bat, that's catcher's interference.
Yeah. But I'm saying, did the ball just scrape off the bat of d'Arnaud and then hit the glove?
I think that's what Freddie Gonzalez wanted to know.
Just watch it, not near his hands. Watch a little further up the bat. Did it just scrape the bat of d'Arnaud and then go to the glove? I mean, it's a hard call. I think it just skimmed the bat. Whoa.
So the Mets might have gotten a break. It's 1-0 to Travis. And he chases a high fastball, and it's 1-1.
This young man, you know, he's going through toils and troubles, and it happens. It's a hot on deck.
Travis had a base hit up the middle his last time up.
But I'm saying sometimes, Gary, you want to get it all back in one swing.
And he lines one. Base hit. Here comes right around third. He will score. Chris Young goes to third. Travis d'Arnaud with an RBI single gets the Mets within a run.
Pretty impressed with this young man when he gets in these RBI situations. We've seen this, I think, 3 or 4 times. The ability to hit the ball the other way. Chris Young on first base. He's got good speed. He goes first to third easy. Mets within 1.
So now what began the inning as a 4-1 game is a 4-3 game. And Roger McDowell's out at the mound to talk to Carpenter. Young is the tying run at third. And d'Arnaud at first. And Ruben Tejada's coming up, and no sign of a pinch hitter.
Surprised here.
The Mets still have Satin, Brown, Recker, and Quintanilla sitting on the bench.
Well, Tejada can't bat here for me. You know, it's just I know he's coming off a base hit in his last at bat, but
Satin on deck to bat for the pitcher if Tejada can keep the inning going, but Ruben will bat for himself. It'll flare to right that fell for a base hit his last time up.
Well, prove me wrong, Ruben.
2 runs are home in the inning on 4 hits against Carpenter. Chris Young at third, d'Arnaud at first with 2 down. And Tejada takes a strike. It all began with Murphy's knuckleball off Uggla's glove. Wright had a base hit. Chris Young drove in a run with a base hit, and d'Arnaud with 2 out took one the other way to drive in the second run of the inning. Now Tejada. And Ruben takes a fastball, and he's quickly in an 0-2 hole. Two from Carpenter. Late swing foul.
The defensive positioning for me of the Braves is wrong. I still think Hayward is too shallow, too deep. He comes shallower, and B.J. Upton has to move over and in. Justin Upton, no need to be that deep. All you have to do is check the baseball card at Tejada.
Ruben's hit 2 flares to right. Hayward caught one. The other fell in for a hit. Gaddis boxes it, but keeps it close enough that Chris Young can't break. Tough inning for David Carpenter. He's given up 2 runs already, trying to keep that tying run pinned at third. One and 2 to Tejada. And a ground ball to right at Uggla. And Uggla makes the play to end the inning. Mets get closer, though. 2 runs on 4 hits. They got just 1 run in 7 innings against Santana, but after Murphy hit one off Uggla's glove, Wright and Chris Young and d'Arnaud all with base hits. 4-3 Atlanta as we go to the 9th at Citi Field. At a 1-0 lead, Freddie Freeman appeared to hit one off his foot. It was ruled a fair ball. Bartolo Colon threw it away. The Braves got 2 runs, took the lead in that 3rd inning, and they have been in front ever since. Out-of-town scoreboard brought to you by your Tri-State Ford dealer. Lance Lynn now 4-0, and the Cardinals win. 3 home runs for the Cubs as they beat Cincinnati 8-4. Great outing by Henderson Alvarez as the Marlins shut out the Mariners. The Pirates and Ike Davis's debut. He has 2 hits, are up 7-6 on the Brewers. And you see the rest there, the Dodgers and the Rockies with leads. And that is Tim Hudson on the mound for the Giants tonight in San Diego.
Well, there's lots of good news on the road trip. 6-3 with the Mets. A lot of great hitting, a lot of great pitching. Jose Valverde is the only one that struggled on that trip. 3-run home run to Valverde and a couple home runs he gave up in the last game Wednesday afternoon in Arizona.
Well, there is Craig Kimbrell, who has not pitched for a week because of some shoulder soreness. And we'll see how he fares tonight. Logan Schaefer will pinch hit for Carpenter, leading off in the 9th inning. Schaefer had his first hit of the year last night, an RBI double. And he takes outside ball 1. I think I said Logan Schaefer. That's the guy in Milwaukee.
In Milwaukee,
who's the same player.
Yes,
and they're not related.
Like that.
This is Jordan Schaefer.
He is. They're a lot alike. 4th outfielder kind of player.
Yeah, left-hand hitter, little speed, not much power.
Parents would appreciate the Jordan Schaefer, though.
Jason Hayward on deck, then B.J. Upton. So Valverde trying to keep this a 1-run game and give the Mets a shot against Kimbrell in the 9th. The Mets have had some better at-bats against Kimbrell than most teams have had over the last couple of years. And Terry Collins hoping for more of the same when the Mets come up in the bottom of the 9th. They'll have 9, 1, and 2 in the batting order coming up.
Well, that was the great thing, is that they had that long extended inning that gets the same kind of players back up to the plate.
Well, if anybody gets on, that means Wright gets another at bat. Schaefer tries to drag a bunt, and it gets under Valverde, and Schaefer is safe. Looked like the easiest of plays for Valverde on a bad bunt by Schaefer, and they're going to score that an error on the pitcher. Now that's 2 bad plays by Met pitchers tonight.
We've seen that in Arizona. You also saw it also. He just didn't get his rear end down I mean, that is the thing. You just have to get all the way down, and wasn't able to make the play.
Well, we saw Valverde have trouble throwing to the bases during the road trip. That time just not handling ground ball.
You know, that is well known. And Hayward up a run, you expect him to hit, but you never know just because of that.
Here you see Valverde having trouble even throwing a pickoff try to first base. And Schaefer can get himself a pretty healthy lead here and try and swipe one. Valverde, the Mets closer of the moment. But the results have been very mixed over the first few weeks. And Hayward trying to bunt. You were right.
I'm not surprised at that at all, Gary. I think they want to try to get Valverde to field the baseball. You know, if you've proven that you have what I want to call it. I know what I want to call it, but I'm not going to say it.
You're not going to call it the yips?
No, you can do it.
Okay. Well, I mean, a lot of pitchers have trouble throwing to bases. We've seen that repeatedly in the first few weeks of the season.
It embarrasses me that is the case.
Hayward, by the way, has one sacrifice bunt in his career. Not bunting here, and he takes a strike. 0-2. And one sack came last year. Took a long look down at Doug DeCenzo, the new Braves third base coach, to see what's on here on 0-2. Unlikely he's bunting. He fouls back the fastball.
You know, the only thing the hardest part about these closers who have been high energy, high adrenaline, go right after them, blow them away with fastball kind of pitchers is that when they lose a little, they still have that mentality, Gary. And I think, you know, what Jose's got to realize, use the count to his advantage. He's up 0-2, bounce a forkball on the plate, see if he'll bite. But they love to continue to throw their fastball.
Schaefer runs. Darno's throw on a hop, and Schaefer is safe. Second stolen base in the last 2 innings for the Braves.
Well, you can't get a better pitch for Darno to throw. Outside, up, but he just kind of spikes it, and the one hop cost him. I don't know if he would have got him anyways because Schaefer had a huge jump.
Second stolen base of the year for Schaefer. So he's in scoring position with nobody out. As Hayward struck out for the first out of the inning.
All these little things that you don't like to see, Gary. Late stolen bases by the inability to hold them on. You know, wild pitches. That's not buttoned up at the end of a ball game.
Now B.J. Upton 1 for 3 and a walk. Nobody's up behind Valverde in the Mets bullpen, with Freddie Freeman standing on deck. Thought maybe they'd get Scott Rice up with the big left-hand hitter to follow.
Well, be careful here with Schaefer also. I think Rice gave up a hit to Freeman, in fact, in Atlanta when he came in to face him. But
But then again, who hasn't?
That's right. Watch out for Schaefer.
He's saying Schaefer might be having more than one.
Oh, very nice.
Murphy right behind the bag at second, keeping an eye on him. And Upton tries to hold the swing. He went around. 2-1.
You can see the hitters are getting pretty frustrated that anything close is being called a swing now.
Two and 1 to B.J. Upton. And has to move his feet. 3-1. Well, this is a huge batter right here.
Yeah.
If you get Upton out, then you can walk Freeman. But now Valverde behind him, 3-1. Popped it up. Darno looking for it. 2 out. There's a huge out for Jose Valverde. Gets Upton on the 3-1 pitch to foul out for the 2nd out.
Terry can't wait to put those 4 fingers up.
There is no doubt what the Mets have to do here. I mean, Justin Upton swinging the bat pretty well tonight, but this is the guy you fear.
There they are. They were nice and warm in the pocket, but they've come out hot.
I'm not sure Travis even looked at him. He already had his glove out. He knew the call.
Yep.
So Freeman, who has 3 hits tonight, including a double and an RBI, will be intentionally passed, and Justin Upton will get a chance with 2 men on.
I guess it really tells you how hot Freeman is, because not many times are you going to walk a hitter in front of Justin Upton. You're just not going to do it. But Freeman, not only hot, but also the damage he does against the Mets. Well documented.
Well, at the opening of the broadcast, we gave you the side-by-sides of Freddie Freeman and Chipper Jones against the Mets. It's getting closer and closer.
You wouldn't name your kid City, would you? Wow.
There's still a bridge.
Okay.
With the Shea name.
Flushing won't go.
No. Corona. Upton is 2 for 4, 2 singles, 2 strikeouts, a stolen base, a run scored tonight, and Justin has to spin out of the way. 1-0.
Roosevelt, Rosie.
It's not bad. Grand Central Freeman.
Well, names they go by the initials now. RG3, GCP.
From Valverde, and Upton takes a strike.
Good pitch there by Jose. That's his locked in place. If he can just stay at the mechanics of that pitch right there, knees and on the, well, there's no block anymore, but on the corner.
1-1. Foul back. Meanwhile, in Pittsburgh, Ryan Braun just hit his 2nd home run of the night. Top of the 9th off Jason Grilly. Brewers lead 8-7.
Things aren't as perfect as they were last year for the back of that Pittsburgh bullpen.
How could they possibly?
Of course, they were so good last year. Melanson and Jason Grilly.
Schaefer at 2nd, Freeman at 1st with 2 down. Valverde now ahead in the count on Justin Upton, 1-2. Sells one high, 2-2. If Justin Upton keeps the inning going, Evan Gattis would be next.
In the 5th inning, Bartolo Colon was able to strike out Justin with ducks on the pond. He came up and in with that fastball.
2 on, 2 out, 2-2 to Upton. Fly ball deep center field. Chris Young racing back to the warning track near the wall. It's out of here. Justin Upton with a straightaway 3-run homer. His 5th home run of the year, his 3rd hit of the night. And the Braves build a 4-run lead in the top of the 9th. It's 7-3 Atlanta. The Mets walked Freeman to get to Upton. That was the right move. But Upton makes them pay.
Well, the home run ball has become an illness for Mr. Valverde. Upton's just so strong, makes the ballpark look little.
Well, as Ronnie documented, he gave up the tying home run to Ibanez, the 2 home runs in Arizona, and now this.
It's on the outside part. Difference is thigh high.
4 home runs allowed in 8 innings for Valverde. Ground ball to the right side. Murphy has to close ground and throws out Gattis to end the inning, but not before Justin Upton's 3-run homer. Puts the Braves up 7-3 as we go to the bottom of the 9th. He gives up the bomb to Justin Upton that breaks the game open for the Braves.
You know, these things run in streaks, and you hate to see it. It's awful to see it. But, you know, the whole game long, Justin Upton has proven that the one pitch he can't handle is up and in. Anything out over the plate, even though that was on the corner, it was up. He just, you know, he's one of the elite hitters in the game.
Let's also remember that inning began with Valverde's inability to field a routine ground ball back to him. And because of that error, all 3 runs in the inning are unearned.
Well, it's not. Yeah, and I'm with you. If a pitcher makes an error, he's got to eat to earn runs. That's how it should go.
Well, this is an important outing for Craig Kimbrel. It's a non-save situation, but after experiencing shoulder soreness earlier this week and not pitching since last Saturday, he's got to show that he's healthy.
Sloppy 8th and 9th for the Mets, when you think about it.
Well, yeah, the ball off Darno's glove for a run in the 8th, and then that.
You're right. It is important for them because this guy is the difference. When you look at them and the 96 wins they have last year, you say to yourself, boy, you know, they had some guys that didn't perform well. Well, this guy performs well every single year. The most dominant closer in the game when he's right.
Omar Quintanilla will pinch hit to lead off against Kimbrel in the 9th. So Quintanilla, who was not used as a pinch hitter for Tejada, who was allowed to bat for himself with the tying run at 3rd in the 8th and then grounded out, is being used as a pinch hitter in the 9th. Slow ground ball. Ugla comes in. And Quintanilla retired, 1 away. Play of the game brought to you by the 2014 Mazda 3 with seamless connectivity. And this was due to just missing in the 8th.
Boy, off the bat, I thought he got him. So did the picture Carpenter. I don't know whether he hit it too high, whether the cold night air, but it did not carry out this evening.
That would have given the Mets a lead. Instead, they were down by a run going to the 9th, and then it fell apart for Valverde with the glove and with the pitch to Upton. And all of a sudden, the Mets are staring at a 2nd straight loss to the Braves. Eric Young's been on base twice tonight via the walk. He's stolen a base and scored a run. That's got a run in the 1st against Santana. Did not score again against the Braves right-hander over his 7 innings. Got 2 off Carpenter in the 8th to get within 1. And now facing Kimbrel in the 9th, down by 4. And the slider misses inside.
He got hit.
I think Young did get hit. I'm not sure he knew it.
Right in the right elbow. I think he was just grimacing in the box in pain, Gary. Little slider right off his elbow.
Well, there you go. Didn't make much of an effort to get out of the way.
Well, guys don't get out of the way today.
Well, they're supposed to be called for that.
Well, that's not going to be called. We're working on that. That'll be next year.
By the way, that's not reviewable either.
We'll work on that next year. We'll get some legalese about getting out of the way.
Well, the way that home run Valverde just allowed, the 25th allowed by the Mets, the most in the majors.
Wow.
Murphy's 2 for 4 tonight. Had a hit off Johnson's glove, and he had a hit off Ugla's glove. So he's not hitting them where they ain't. He's just hitting them where they ain't able to catch them. Kimbrel's throwing 96 miles an hour.
I used to play with a player, Gary, who used to say, right now I'm not hitting the ball in the nose, but it's allergic to leather.
By the way, Gerald Laird is catching in this 9th inning. A little better defense behind the plate as Gaddis comes out.
See, closing of the eyes of Kimbrel. Must use some visualization when he's out there.
Murphy hits one back up the middle for a base hit. So the Mets have some life here in the 9th. Eric Young hit by a pitch. Murphy with his 3rd hit of the night. And now the Mets need just one more base runner to get the tying run to the plate.
Well, you said it earlier, Gary. The Mets, and I think it's because of familiarity, they've seen him so often that they've had some good runs at Kimbrel. David Wright's tying home run last season in Atlanta.
The rally when Santana started against the Mets in Atlanta this year, where the Mets fought within a run and Kimbrel was finally able to save it. The diving play by Hayward last year that saved him against Justin Turner.
They certainly don't have the key to unlock the door, but they battle as well as anyone in the game against the young phenom.
Murphy had been 0 for 7 against Kimbrel before that base hit. Wright is 1 for 6 with that home run you mentioned. David trying to get on base and give Granderson another shot. And David drives one to right center field, and that is down for a base hit. Off the glove of B.J. Upton. Eric Young around third. He will score. Murphy stops at third. David Wright with his third hit of the night, an RBI double. Now it's 7-4, and Granderson will come to the plate as the tying run.
When I was talking about that home run last year that he hit it to right center. And David, the same approach here, just eludes B.J. Upton and gets to the fence. Young was going back to tag, but he's going to score because of that speed. And Murph with the good hustle, he reads it right away. He's not going to catch it. And Murph, to tell you the truth, had to hold up because Young came back. And Tuffle, of course, at the right place at the right time. Got to be conservative here, 3 down.
So now another chance for Granderson, who popped up with 2 men on in the 8th. And he takes the slider inside from Kimbrel. So the Mets with a hit batsman, a single and a double, have a run home in the 9th, and the tying run at the plate. Chris Young waiting on deck. And that one boxed by Laird, who was clearly crossed up.
How did he make that play? Whoa. Thinks the Express is coming? The 7 local instead.
Oh, wow.
How did he make that play? Amazing.
Look at that ball, didn't clip his bare hand.
I like David's approach. He just throws too hard to pull. Just up the middle or the other way. Beautiful.
2 feet off the ground. 1-1 to Granderson. And Curtis lays off the slider. Nothing but breaking balls from Kimbrel. 2-1. That's been the pattern against Curtis, hasn't it?
He's got to think, though. He's missed a couple of pitches in this game. For good hitters, only takes 1 pitch, Gary, to get him back in it.
He's already left 4 runners on base tonight. He takes the cut at the fastball, 98 from Kimbrel, so he's dialing it up.
It's not that easy, folks. You have to get it started early. Once you recognize fastball out of the hand, you've got to either fire or not. He did.
Two from Kimbrel. Struck him out with a slider. 2 out. So an 0 for 5 night for Granderson, and he is hearing it from the Flushing faithful.
Well, he threw 2 unhittable pitches there, up and in with the fastball at 98 and a devastating breaking ball. And, you know, I'm not covering for Grandy. He doesn't need it. Too good of a career. But right now, when this guy's on and he's throwing the pitches that he wants to throw, you almost have no chance.
Granderson now 2 for 15 on the season with runners in scoring position. So the Mets are down to their final out. Chris Young's had a very good night tonight, a single and a double. He's driven in a run, tying run at the plate in a 7-4 game. But no margin for error. And he takes it high for ball 1.
Everyone wants to be a hero, but I think what you have to do against a guy like Kimbrel, just keep the line moving. Get 2 guys on. Single puts doubt in his head. He has doubt already.
Chris Young has had 1 career at bat against Kimbrel. He hit a home run. And he had a good swing at that fastball, 1-1. If Young can keep it going, Lucas Duda, who barely missed a 3-run homer his last time up, is on deck. Murphy at third, Wright at second with 2 down.
And Young lines one to center. BJ up to the left to play it on the hop, base hit. Murphy scores right to third. It's now a 7-5 ball game, and the Mets have the tying runs on base for Duda. Chris Young with his third hit and his second RBI of the night. And the Mets are getting great swings against Craig Kimbrell here in the ninth inning.
3 hits tonight for Chris Young, all on sliders. Right in the middle of the plate. Not trying to do too much. Keep that line moving. Get Lucas Duda to the plate. Murph's going to score, of course. David's run means nothing. You don't want to take a chance of him getting thrown out of the plate. Get your big man to the plate.
There's action now in the Atlanta bullpen as Roger McDowell visits the mound to talk to Kimbrell. Jordan Walden is up. Well, the Mets were down 4-1 going to the bottom of the 8th. They got 2 to get close. Valverde gave up the 3-run homer to Justin Upton. Looked like the Braves had it put away. Now the Mets have rallied for 2 against Kimbrell in the bottom of the 9th. You see what Kimbrell's done against the Mets this year. And the Mets trying for 1 big swing from Duda. Tying runs on base, 2 out. And Laird wants to talk about how they're going to play the infield. Flashing some signs.
Well, it's defense also. He's letting them know if Young tries to steal. That's the other unknown factor. Young's got the speed. Kimbrell takes forever to deliver the ball to home plate. Do you take that shot? I doubt they will.
Coming off the quad injury, is he fully ready to run? Duda takes a slider for a strike. Lucas 1 for 4 tonight, but he's hit the ball to the warning track in center and in right his last 2 at bats. Travis d'Arnaud would be next. Well, Kimbrell well knows that Duda can end this night in 1 big swing. Lucas passes 1 foul, and now it's 0-2.
Tough here with the 0-2 count, but I had a manager once in the minor leagues that said something I thought has always been prophetic. If you're going to have a good year, you got to beat a closer once in a while.
Hard-working inning for Kimbrell in his first outing in a week. Mets are down to their final strike. Up and in. 1-2 to Lucas. Mets now with 5 runs and 13 hits. Coming up next on Pix 11, it's the Pix 11 News at 10. Next on SNY, it's WB Mason Postgame Live. Now the 1-2. Young runs. The pitch is high. Dropped by Laird. And now the tying runs are in scoring position. That's a big stolen base for Chris Young. Now a single could tie the game for New York. Chris Young getting it all done tonight.
Well, he got a walking start. Laird could tell. I don't know where Laird was going to throw it anyway. No one was covering. All the defensive positions were keeping their place. So really just gave him second base. But still, nice job by Chris Young to make sure of that.
The Braves, unlike most teams, play pretty much straight up against Duda. 2-2 to Lucas. He just stays alive as he gets a piece of the slider.
When you look at the outfield of the Atlanta Braves, Justin Upton has a good arm. Doesn't charge the ball particularly well in left field. Center field, Upton has an outstanding arm, playing extremely deep with Young speed. And Jason Hayward has an outstanding arm too in right field. Probably the best at throwing home.
2-2. Way up high. Full count to Duda. If he walks, d'Arnaud would be next. Well, Kimbrell really fighting himself. Duda just 1 for 11 against Kimbrell, but that 1 was a home run.
This could make a lot of mistakes from the 8th and 9th inning vanish.
It's 3-2. Ball 4 and the bases are loaded. Now the tying run at second, and the potential winning run is on first. And that's going to be all for Kimbrel. They're going to take him out and bring Jordan Walden in to try to secure the final out. So Kimbrel gives up 3 hits, a walk and a hit by pitch. The Mets have scored twice against him here in the 9th, and he will leave with the bases loaded in favor of Jordan Walden. Called to the bullpen, brought to you by Audi, Truth in Engineering. 7-5 Atlanta in the 9th. Mets have the bases loaded. We'll be right back. For his first save of the year, trying to bail out Craig Kimbrel in the 9th.
He pitched in last night's ball game. Travis d'Arnaud had an at-bat, grounded out to Chris Johnson in that at-bat. So familiarity is a good thing for d'Arnaud, and Walden's had some good games in this ballpark.
Right at third, Young the tying run at second, Duda the potential winning run at first. Mets have scored twice here in the 9th. d'Arnaud has had base hits his last 2 times up. Drove in a run with a base hit in the 8th. That was the 8th man to bat in the inning. And he takes a strike. 97 from Walden.
And Travis should just concentrate on what he's done in crucial situations. Just hit the ball up the middle.
Fouls it back, and just like Duda before him, he finds himself in a 2-strike hole.
Those 2 good pitches from Walden there, Gary, right on the corner.
Well, if d'Arnaud can keep it going, Josh Satin has come out on deck to bat for Ruben Tejada, the move that Terry Collins did not want to make in the 8th. But now the Mets again are down to their final strike. And the breaking ball grounded deep in the hole. It's short. Simmons with a long throw in time, and the ball game is over. The platinum glove shortstop makes the big play to end the night, and the Mets rally comes up a bit shy in the bottom of the 9th. Ultimately, the Justin Upton 3-run homer off Valverde proves to be the difference, and the Braves have taken the first 2 of this series, winning tonight 7-5.
Well, a shame for Bartolo Colon. He was outpitched tonight. But watch this play by Simmons. This is a play. There's maybe less than a count on one hand of shortstops that can make this play look so easy. This is a difficult play. He's deep, but he's got the arm to be able to throw d'Arnaud like it's a routine play. The mistakes in the 8th and 9th, just you cannot make And that's what it cost the Mets tonight.
Well, the Mets had rallies in the 8th and 9th, 2 in the 8th, 2 in the 9th, but a wild pitch in the 8th and the 3-run homer by Upton in the 9th against the Mets bullpen proved to be the Mets' undoing. And the Mets fall back below 500. The game summary brought to you by Nissan. Shop ChooseNissan.com today. Simmons helps bail out the Braves as they hang on to win it 7-5. We'll be right back to Citi Field.